This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity.
Russ Wakeland. You put me on a boat with freaking dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Drew Cremeans in the third chair.
Defeat allows no excuses. Victory requires none.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at the speed of an innocent man accidentally infected with some crazy monkey rage virus released by a bunch of crazed activists. Today's edition is brought to you by Ruse, Victorian steampunk murder mystery, Ruse, find motive, method, and opportunity, Ruse, coming soon to Kickstarter, powered by Game Salute. I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host today. As always, our panelists are Russ, Rowan, Jaffe, Wakeland, and PR guru for Alien Dungeons Games, Drew Cremeans. Let's begin. Issue number 1. Fantasy is a subgenre of speculative fiction that commonly uses magic and other supernatural phenomena as a primary element of plot, theme, or setting. In popular culture, the genre of fantasy is dominated by its medievalist form, especially since the worldwide success of Lord of the Rings and related books by J.R.R. Tolkien. Fantasy has also included wizards, sorcerers, witchcraft, etc. in events which avoid horror. Question. Perhaps the earliest example of fantasy known to literature is an epic poem written in Babylon from ancient Mesopotamia, written in Babylonian from ancient Mesopotamia, theoretically as early as the 18th century BC. What is the name of the ancient hero who provides a title for this adventure while rampaging across the world, defying gods with his mortal buddy? Uruk Russ.
Hercules?
Enkidu Drew.
Ulysses.
Oh, you are so many thousands of years off. Gilgamesh, of course, spurning goddesses, running around killing monsters and searching for eternal life. The guy was a hoot.
Tip of my tongue.
Issue number 2. Zombies are fictional undead creatures regularly encountered in horror and fantasy-themed works. They are typically depicted as mindless, reanimated corpses with a hunger for human flesh, and particularly for human brains in some descriptions. Although they share their name and some superficial similarities with the zombies from Haitian Vodun, their links to such folklore are unclear, and many consider George A. Romero's seminal film The Night of the Living Dead to be the progenitor of these creatures. Question. According to scientists, what is one of the 5 ways a zombie apocalypse could actually happen? Mark Ritchie Russ.
A freak nuclear explosion.
Dwayne Jones Drew.
Gilgamesh comes back from the dead and starts affecting people.
Unfortunately, neither of those made the top 5 by the scientists. Welcome to the longest answer in rapid fire history. I hope you've got your notes because you're going to be taking some. The first is Toxoplasmosa gondii, a virus that lives in rats but can only breed in cat stomachs, so it controls the rats to get eaten, and is carried by half the human race. It cannot affect us, however, yet. The next is mass-distributed neurotoxins. Mind control a la Haiti. Can't make people crave human flesh, though. Yet. The rage virus family. Only a slight variation on mad cow disease, and now we're talking about getting chased by crazed runners. Neurogenesis, using stem cells to regrow brain matter, works much better on the animalistic stem part of the human brain rather than the touchy-feely cortex. One quick transplant and neurogenic treatment from a mindless workforce, or worse. And nanobots, think about it, they can fix the human brain, great, so they get in. Then they replicate, great, then you die. But they don't let you die, so they replace your brainstem, awesome, and they're programmed to save themselves. So when you start to fall apart because you're rotting, they drive you to bite someone so that they can transfer to a new host. Creepy. And a quick thank you to David Wong at crack.com for my lack of sleep tonight. Issue number 3. The A-Team is an American action-adventure television series running from 1983 to 1987 about a fictional group of ex-United States Army Special Forces personnel who are framed for a crime they didn't commit. They end up breaking out of military prison and working as soldiers of fortune, if you can find them, while on the run from the Army. Question. One of the iconic characters of the A-Team was the inscrutable B.A. Baracus, played by the inestimable Mr. T. Part of B.A.'s character was the constant wearing of a great deal of gold jewelry. Although it varied from week to week, within 5 pounds, how much did that gold weigh on average? John narrator Ashley Russ.
30 pounds.
Colonel Decker Drew.
7.5 pounds.
Unfortunately, one of you is wrong and one of you is close, but wrong. The answer was 35 to 40 pounds.
Holy
five.
smokes.
That is a lot of gold, but then that is a lot of man. Issue number 4. Survivalism is a movement of individuals or groups called survivalists or preppers who are actively preparing for emergencies as well as possible disruptions in social or political order on scales ranging from the local to the international. Survivalists often have emergency medical and self-defense training, stockpile food and water, prepare for self-sufficiency, and build structures that will help them survive or quote-unquote disappear, e.g. a survival retreat or underground shelter. Questions. In the event of a full-blown zombie apocalypse, experts agree that there are only 2 general states of survival. What are they? James Wellesley Rawls Wakeland.
Alive and dead.
Crescent Kearney Cremeans.
I was going to go with alive or dead as well. I think we're in agreement.
Agreement in wrongness. Unfortunately, the answer is bugging in, hunkering down in an appropriate shelter, and bugging out, knowing when to get the heck out of Dodge. And if you bug in when you should be bugging out, you're going to be zombie chow, so get studying. That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by GameSalute.com. Check out gaming news or find out what the new hotness is on Springboard. GameSalute.com.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And Wargame Soldiers and Strategy magazine, making historical wargaming less scary and more fun.
Hello.
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 Hey, and welcome to episode 113 of the D6 Generation.
That's bad luck.
I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Alon.
I'm Drew Cremeans.
Hey, Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot.
Now, we know Drew from back in his days as a GW folk person thing.
Big
there.
wig.
Right. But Drew, what are you up to nowadays, man?
I'm working for a brand new company called Alien Dungeon, and we're getting ready to launch our very first game, Fanticide, in just a couple days now.
Ooh, exciting times.
We're excited. Yeah, it's a big Kickstarter thing. And, of course, we're going to have, later in the show, Drew was kind enough to join us along with a couple of the big designers there to help us get to know Fanticide and what it's all about and what's hot about it, right?
That's what we're doing.
That's the plan. And then up a little later, we're going to talk about another side. It's the episode of Sides, really. It is Zombicide, the big zombie hotness that came on a Kickstarter as well. So it's kind of like a double Kickstarter excitement episode. Look at that.
Yeah, it's like cider-rama.
Yeah, something like that.
Cider beef, cider something, cider. Cider. I'm thirsty now.
So, but up first, we have, let's see, we have some contests to talk about here.
We do.
We are right in the middle, dead center, right in the middle as it can be, of our giant Weird Miniatures prize pack contest.
Cider-palooza! Sorry.
Okay. So Eric Johns was kind of join us last episode and bring on a whole box load of cool Weird Miniature stuff, new plastics from Puppet Wars. We've got, what are the, Craig, those dudes that have the glowy light stuff in them? What are those guys called?
Glowy light stuff in them. Oh, that would be the crew with Jacob something.
All those
Jacob
plastics.
Lynch, I think.
Jacob Lynch. We got all the new bases. We've got tons of stuff in this giant box. And what do they got to do to win something, Craig?
Well, you're going to have to do some work to win all that stuff, Russ. And what we're saying is we want a 30-second, or if you're super creative and you can keep our attention span, you can be a little longer than that. But seriously, aim for 30 seconds. A radio spot for Weird Miniatures / Malifaux.
Yeah.
Or some sort of reference to the prizes in general. But we're looking for creativity is what we're looking for.
Indeed.
We're putting you back on the spot.
Do it in character. Do it for Weird. Do it for the particular game, Malifaux, whatever you want. Send all your entries, audio entries, remember, it's on a radio spot, to contest at thed6generation.com. And they're going to be due to my vacation coming up here, we will have to delay one episode. These aren't due then till the end of this month, end of October.
Oh, you've got Halloween and episode 113 all coming together.
Bonus time right now going on here. So So no excuses. Get lots of thought in there. Get some creativity going on. We want to see wacky, wild, crazy entries. That's what we're looking for.
Yup.
Indeed.
Super spooky.
Exactly. So let's see. So that's that contest. Very excited about that. A couple announcements here too. Craig, what's going on with Extra Life there?
Well, Extra Life, of course, is in full swing right now. And because of Thanksgiving coming early, it just seems like the whole fall has shifted forward a couple of weeks, a week or two at least. And so Extra Life is coming right around the corner. And I kind of waited till the last minute. I'm just sending out my emails this week. I haven't seen emails from most of the rest of my team. So go team. And so just to give you a quick overview one more time about what I'm offering. And yes, spooky, this is not a reward. It's just a chance to win something. So you're not guaranteed a prize. So this is still charity.
Right.
So basically, for every $10 you donate to Boston's Children's Hospital through me, I'm going to put your name in a hat once. So let's say you donate $100, that puts your name in there 10 times. And I'm going to draw at the end when all the donations have come in and the donations are closed. I'm going to draw out of that hat one name. And that is going to be the person who wins this year. And what are you going to win? You're going to be the main character in a Spartan Games short story that you get to choose the game that it occurs in. And now you've got all kinds of other games coming up there now, too. So go over to their website and check out all the games you've got to choose from if you're not familiar with their offerings. And Spartan Sally, one of the artists that works at Spartan Games, will paint your portrait as the character of you using a photo that you can send her. That character from the short story, you will get that painting in a nice framed painting and a digital copy so that you can use it on your social media, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a really cool prize. That painting is awesome. I use mine everywhere.
Nice.
It's plastered everywhere I go. And remember that this is for an awesome cause. Every penny that you pledge goes immediately to Boston's Children's Hospital. So there's no middleman. It's all electronic. It goes immediately to the hospital. And if you want to donate to somebody in your area, then the Extra Life website will easily contact you with people who are donating to specific hospitals also. So it's not just me and my own glory that I'm looking to raise here. It's just money for kids all over the world. So especially if you're in another country, look for people who are helping out your local people because there's a bunch of people. There are over 9,000 people signed up to do it so far this year. So that's a huge, huge boost from last year.
Is awesome.
It's an awesome, awesome cause. It's an awesome charity. It's 100% tax deductible if you care about such things. I don't even know how to fill out those forms, but there you go. And literally every penny goes directly to those hospitals to help kids. And every one of those hotels, I always do that. Every one of those hospitals will treat all the children that come to them, regardless of their family's financial situation. And this is how they do that. Charities like this. So please, if you for any number, I mean, we're in election season, so everybody's blah, 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 on all sides. But seriously, these kids need help, and this is a way to get them help immediately. So please help us do that.
Exactly right. So check the show notes and watch our Twitter feed and Facebook feeds for all the links. And please help whatever you can. We'll appreciate it. And, of course, it's a great cause. And it's a great way to have fun while raising money for a very good cause.
And by the way, we play games for 24 hours straight.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, that's awesome. That's it. That's Extra Life. So we're very excited about that. And also, let's see here. Drew, do you remember what we talked about in the last Lost Chapters?
I don't remember what we talked about in the last chapters. It was board games and miniature games merging, wasn't it?
It was very good. See, he was paying attention.
It was really, really late at night.
It was late at night, and we were enjoying donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, so that it's easy to forget these things.
It's easy.
Yeah, we had a great discussion about how the two merge together. How this we're taking mechanics and play concepts and really high quality miniatures that you might want to paint and putting them into board games and how that affects all of us gamers in general and what that's like. So if you want to hear more about that, head on over to the Lost Chapters. And the best way to do that is to go to the D6generation.com. And on the right-hand side, you see a little stack of books. Click on that stack of books, and it'll explain all the different ways you can get your very own copy of the Lost Chapters. And I recommend my favorite way to listen to them, and most of our listeners seem to agree, because now fully over 60% of all downloads come through our cool D6 Generation app that's available.
How much does that app cost, Russ?
It's absolutely free.
It's absolutely free.
It is. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
It is 100% free, and it is available on iOS and the Android platforms. And that's the D6 Generation app. Lets you listen to our show as well and subscribe to our show, as well as get the Lost Chapters that way, too. Very handy dandy.
It arranges and organizes all your D6G needs.
It does. So let's see. What is up next, Craig?
What is up next?
Yeah, what's the time for? What's the time for now?
Oh, what is it time for? Well, clearly, achievements in gaming.
Indeed it is. So, Achievements in Gaming is brought to us by Ben Greenman from Southampton, England. To my beautiful girlfriend, Becky Rowe, thank you for making me feel so good about my geeky side. You've changed my life, and I love you. Aww. So, Drew, let's start with you, our guest. What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing lots and lots of games of Fanticide with the launch coming up, doing lots of demo games with potential customers and with friends, just to have it out there and be playing it and just enjoying it. Like, it's just a fun game.
Now, what's your favorite faction right now in Fanticide?
I really, really like the Fae, like the satyr kind of dark, super simple, but at the same time vicious and mean. And I like the way they play. Like, they play really, really fast and furious.
Nice. Now, how many models do you have typically when you're rocking out there in your demos and your regular games?
30 models in my Fae warband.
Nice.
And my Labari warband is only 18 models, like big, heavy cavalry models that hit really hard, but they there's only 18 models to match that same equal number of 30 models for the Fae.
Nice. That sounds pretty cool. What else you playing?
I just finished up a game of Descent. We started one a couple weeks ago. I left the board set up. I don't know how often that happens with you guys, but we just didn't finish the game. So we left everything set up, and we finally finished that and had a great time. A little bit of disagreement about, I think those pieces got moved, but that's how it
Achievement
goes.
for that. Now, is this Descent 2 or Descent 1?
Just Descent 1. It was the Descent 1, and it was a good time.
Okay. Yeah, I love Descent. Descent's a good time. Now, are you playing the campaign or are you playing the one-off dungeons there?
We did a one-off dungeon, and we hadn't played in a really, really long time, so the rules were really, really rusty, and lots of people that never played it before as well were playing, so it was a good time. But Descent 1, we need to break out Descent 2. The box is still sitting here, shrink-wrapped even.
Oh, it's taunting you from the corner. Play me.
That's right. Paint me.
Exactly. Now, is your Descent set all painted?
My Descent set is all painted.
See, that's a shame. I don't think we mentioned Descent in our merging show there, but that's there you go. Another great game that's got miniatures you want to paint in it. Very good. Cool. And what about what else? Anything else, Drew?
Yeah, I've been playing a historical game called Saga. It's a Dark Age skirmish miniature game. Mm-hmm. It's point-based, which is different for me. All my historical gaming in the past has always been with a bunch of really beardy old guys, and I didn't quite get into it. But I've been really enjoying Saga because it's a little more competitive and a little more something I can understand being point-based. And I've been playing a Welsh war band. Just a good time.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, if you guys haven't tried it, I recommend it.
Oh, very cool.
Cool.
That does sound awesome. Let's see. Craig, what about you? What have you been playing?
What have I been playing? Well, I've been playing a lot of 40K, actually, still, interestingly enough. The campaign is still going strong. Interestingly enough, with 8 people playing, there was only one game that was defaulted on last week due to schedule conflicts. And everybody else finished their games. And Matt, with his Space Wolves, is basically on a runaway with this 555 platform, and I ended up meeting him last night, and there was literally nothing I could do. I took a Lehman Russ, which is extremely difficult to get in the triple nickel campaign rules. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to get a Lehman Russ because they break the rules basically. So you've got to do a bunch of stuff to allow you to break a rule. And it did nothing for me. It fired 3 turns. It fired everything: 3 heavy bolters, a heavy stubber, and its battle cannon. And its battle cannon. Mm-hmm. 3 turns of shooting. I'm not even going to do the math on how many dice that is.
Ouch!
I killed 2 guys.
Wow!
I killed those 2 guys due to a bizarre deviation of the battle cannon in round 1.
Huh.
So after those 2 guys died and they weren't even in the squad I was shooting at, I killed nothing. It was crazy.
Craig, it's really, really refreshing to hear that you're still just
Rolling
fairly
like that.
bad at games.
Not bad at games.
Wow.
I'm bad at rolling. I to contrast that, I went up against the Dark Eldar last week.
Yeah.
And I tabled. Oh, I didn't quite table him because I couldn't touch his Talos.
Yeah.
This was so far I've loved 6th edition rules, as I said last time.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first time something happened in the 6th edition rules, and I was like, seriously? Because I had 3 missile launchers firing on a Talos, the big, huge, giant floating death machine.
Right.
And it had 1 wound on him already. And these missile launchers, they only hit on a 4+, so 50% of the time. Because of the toughness of my target, they only wound 3 out of 6 times. So there's not a guarantee there either. I only had 2 missiles left. I hit both of them. I wounded with both of them. He doesn't get an armor save. Oh, he goes to ground, which is generally supposed to symbolize a bunch of infantry diving for cover.
Right.
And so this giant floating monstrosity of death in the middle of an open field goes to ground, gives him a 6+ invulnerable save, and of course, Christian rolls boxcars.
Wow.
I was like, no!
That's cool. That's kind of long odds for it to happen, though. Yeah.
But it was okay because then I just took a couple chimeras and I parked him right next to that guy, and he wouldn't assault my chimeras, so they could keep moving constantly and stopping him from getting me. So my guys went in, got the relic, and started running away, and actually ran into his deployment zone for an extra point. So
Nice. Well,
it was a very fun game, as was my game last night with Space Wolves. Just wasn't right, didn't quite go my way. So I'm really enjoying that. I played a short game of Zombicide with Russ to refresh my memories from when we played it at Adepticon and enjoyed it immensely and got all zombie mojoed back
ready?
up.
Right.
And I played a game of Firestorm Invasion Planetfall, the new Spartan Games Spartan Studio game. So it's a mail order only right now. And it's a 10 millimeter. The Planetfall version is 10 millimeter. I got a couple of the starter sets, so one of each, the Terrans and the Dendrenzi. And Jeremy's painting up those Terrans, and I'm trying to paint up the Dendrenzi. And it's a much steeper learning curve than the other Spartan games. I'll put that right out there. There's some stuff that seems to be, I mean, the core rules are excellent. I think they're really, really cool. They're very different from anything that Spartan has done before. There's a couple mechanics that are similar, but for the most part, it's very different. There's no turning templates. There's no range bands, things like that. There's no damage rating, kill rating, hull points. And that whole structure is gone. So it's a much more bloody. You're killing things with one unit shooting at another unit, and stuff's dying off the bat. Interesting thing that the starter for the Terrans comes with an aircraft, and the starter for the Dendrenzi only comes with 2 mediocre anti-aircraft weapons. So that was a little aggravating. But then Locke came in, and I shot down and killed one of his planes in turn 1. So
what's
it's
your favorite mechanic?
very. What's that?
What's your favorite mechanic? You had to pick one. What's your cool?
If I had to pick one favorite mechanic, it would probably be the command point mechanic. Where you generate a random number of command points, and then certain units on the board generate command points, and those command points can be used to enhance the performance of different units on the board and to use cards. This game, just like most Spartan games, has a deck of cards, but they're not free to play. You can't just automatically play them. You have to pay command points. You can also pay command points, however, to do all kinds of other stuff, like make your troops run faster, make them shoot better. So it's very, very managing those command points and where to put them and what best to do with them is a really cool mechanic that's brand new, and I really like the way that it sort of allows you to mitigate luck quite a bit in the game. So I really liked that. So I had fun. There's still there's a couple wacky things in the rule book right now about army building and stuff like that I'm not quite sure. I have a couple emails in. I'll let you know what happens.
All right.
But I think this is a really cool game. A lot of innovative mechanics, a lot of brand new stuff that I'd never seen before, and the models, of course, are gorgeous and paint up really, really quickly. So
cool.
So that was. Oh, and I played Werewolf with one of my classes because they did a ridiculous amount of yeoman's work on the set, and I wanted to reward them, so they wanted to play Werewolf. So I played a few games of Werewolf with them, and they love it. They're vets though. They're my second year students, so they're all like metagaming it, and they're all getting into each other's brains, and so it's wicked cool to watch that. So. Yes, that is my gaming for today. Russ, what have you been doing?
Well, Craig, I don't even know if you know this, but our friends at the Mage Wars, they sent us our review copy of Mage Wars.
Yes, they did.
And I have not let you near it because I've been hogging the Mage Wars copy.
Really?
Yes, I played my brother John. I had it at his house, and we were sitting around. And so we sat together. Now, one of the downsides, not a downside, but I guess it is set up. The initial playthrough for Mage Wars is going to take you time because you got to go through the giant deck of cards and build the books.
Your spell books.
Now, they do recommend exactly what to put in there for the first time. So we did that. So we're playing it through, and my brother's like, whatever. And he's looking at the pictures. He goes, boy, this sounds pretty cool. And then we started playing. He's like, this is awesome. He got totally into it. It was great. So I played with him. And then I brought it into Myriad. Myriad Games, our favorite local friendly professional gaming store who sponsors the show on behalf of friendly professional gaming stores everywhere. And we really appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
So we brought it into Myriad, and I played Adam.
And by the way, Dan, the word is ruse. The word you are looking for me to pronounce correctly is ruse.
Or ruse.
However, ruse is a dialectically acceptable alternative.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So Adam played with me, and it was funny because Adam was like, okay, this is sort of neat. As they're playing along, he's like, this is better. I think I'd like this game, but I wouldn't buy it myself. And by the end, he's like, how much does this cost now? So a lot of fun. So Mage Wars,
a bunch
really
of people have been picking it up by now.
Yeah, really nice game. I can't wait to get. I have already bought the. We're giving this copy away on the show, of course, in a future contest. But I've already bought my own expansion pack of cards, and I'll be purchasing my own copy of the game. I'm really addicted to the stupid thing, so that's good. And let's see what else. Play a little bit of. We got to have the theme song going here because.
Play
a little bit. Oh, here it is. Here's the now infamous theme. Here we go. Theme for Super Dungeon Explorer. Here it is. There we go. We're in Tokyo. Yeah, there it is. So, played a little bit of Super Dungeon Explorer with my girls. They love that game. They can't get enough of that. Now they argue over who gets to be the bad guy. That's pretty much how it works. So I'm always a hero now, and I just got to deal with one of my daughters being the bad guy. My youngest played, and she destroyed us. So I'm not even sure what happened there as the evil villain.
Very nice.
So she's quite good at that. Also broke out. Now this is fun. I broke out X-Wing, and played a nice big 100-point game, 3-player. Adam and I as the rebels against Ryan's stalwart rebellion. We were destroyed utterly. It wasn't even close. We didn't even get through their shields, and we lost all our ships. We killed the model. It was pretty embarrassing. But then also, my nephew just had his 10th birthday as well. He and my oldest daughter are the same age, and so for his birthday, he's a huge Star Wars fan. So I gave him a copy of the X-Wing game. A little nervous because it's really 14 and up, blah blah blah. So I sat down on the day I went and visited him, and I broke it out. We played it together, and he seemed to really like it. And then he came and visited 2 days ago, and he's like, this was awesome. He played with his mom. He's playing with all his friends. He loves it. So huge hit with 10-year-olds. If you know someone who's young and likes Star Wars, good gift idea. And let's see. Also played Seasons with Jeremy and a few folks. Jeremy taught us the Seasons game.
Uh-huh.
This is a brand new, very, I guess it's Euro-style game where you're each playing. I'm not even sure what you're really playing. You're trying to. The theme is.
The funniest comment that I heard all night was somebody was like, "What are they playing? Seasons?" And then somebody that was playing it said, "It refers to the game length."
Right. Well, it wasn't super long. It wasn't short, but it was weird because you're playing. Like I'm thinking in my head, I'm playing Heat Miser and Cold Miser or something, But it's kind of like that. But basically, you're playing through seasons and trying to get the maximum points and building combos. Interesting mechanics. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those games. It was fun, though. The components are a very beautiful game. Then I also played, so get ready. Our friend Shifty here has, I mentioned the last episode. Drew, have you played Infinity? Let's throw this out there.
I have played Infinity.
Now, what do you think of Infinity?
I have a couple friends that are really, really into it, and they're so into it that they bought me some Infinity to get
That's what happened to me. See, what is it? These guys are passionate. So I have been... Infinity's been going on forever, right? And we don't have really a local following, but it's an older game. It's been around a while. And we have some friends who've been wanting to get into it. So, and Will is one of those friends. So Will's like, he finally bought a set of stuff and gave it to me. And I'm like, okay, thanks. And then I put together the models, and I'm a big fan of anime. So I'm already kind of hooked on the style of the models. They look great. They're really, really nice detail. They look fantastic. Very anime. They have these things called tags, which are basically giant mecha robots. You know, they come out of any anime series. Look cool. And it's a skirmish game, right, Drew? It's designed for like what's typical size squad. It's maybe like 10 models is a lot, maybe, right, in this game. It's usually pretty small.
Yeah, I have
count.
6, so 6 models.
6 is the starter count. Now, the thing is, so I played a demo game on Tuesday night, thinking, okay, whatever. It'll be fun, but it's just another skirmish game. What are you going to do? So I went in thinking that. Now, Will has some awesome terrain for this game. Fantastic. His home has got this huge section. And you want a lot of terrain for this game. The way the game is designed, the way the reaction system works, it would not work on a normal miniature war game table. You really need to have, like, for those familiar with Necromunda amounts of terrain. It needs to be very, very low visibility, very, very tight. So you need a lot of terrain. So we've got that all set up. Looks great. I put a picture on Facebook. Looks really cool. So we're playing, and really it's really interesting because each guy can react to anything that happens. Kind of like what we talked about in Dust Warfare, except there's no maximum range of reaction. So basically, if you can see the guy, you can react to what he does, and you can micromanage what each guy does. So each guy gets a couple of things he can do each turn, and it can be things like dropping prone or reacting or running a little bit then shooting, or all kinds of options going on. Basically, suppression fire, which is essentially Overwatch, all kinds of crazy stuff. And what's really interesting about it is you can react to whatever they do. So I came up, got behind his guy, and they got facing like War Machine. So I'm shooting this guy in the back, all kinds of bonuses. I shoot him, his armor saves him. So then he reacts, he turns around and faces me. So now my next shot's going to be in his face. I'm like, oh, that kind of stinks. He's moved into cover. He's facing me. But then I realize my other guy on the other side, he's now turned away from my other guy. So my other guy activates, shoots him in the back, and now he's got a choice. He can react to me and face the other way again, but now he's going to put his back to the other guy that shot him first. So flanking really works very, very effectively in the game. The reaction is really neat. It's very interesting. Drew, what do you think of Infinity? Do you like it? You kind of dabble in it? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm still really dabbling in it. I love the miniatures. The miniatures are beautiful. They were easy to paint up. Like, they painted up beautifully, actually. And I'm not a great painter. I'm a fairly mechanical painter, but they turned out really well because the models are so good.
Yeah.
And the 2 or 3 games that I've played, they were fun, but I think if I played it with people who were really excited about it, I could find myself getting into it. Like, the guy that really wants me to get into Infinity, and I think you guys probably have friends just like this, he's the guy that has to win no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to teach somebody how to play a new miniature game, the guy that needs to win no matter what happens isn't always the best guy to be showing you how to play the game.
See, Will's much better at that because Will lost to the man and I didn't lose a guy. So he was very generous in his defeat. But which is more evil because now I'm even more hooked, of course, because nothing feels as good about a new game when you get a nice big win there under your belt. But I was hoping I could walk away from this going meh, it's another. But I have to say I was really impressed by the rules. I really liked the opposed tests, so I ended up caving and I bought the rule book, the full hardcover 2nd edition rule book. And I just like the art. At the first, it's like most miniature books. The first, 100 or so pages are all fluff and background. And I started getting the fluff of my guys. One's a medic and one can basically deep strike. He sort of like teleports in, and then one guy has got like mechanized deployment, and it's just they got swords, they got guns. It's very anime. It's really cool. It's interesting. I'm the only thing I'm worried about, and Drew, I don't know if you've run into this yet, is I'm afraid. I don't know if the mechanics are fiddly or not, but I don't know if people get serious about it if the mechanics are too fluid. Like, I don't know how. I got to really dig into the rules more and see if they're firm enough for me,
Yeah, and that's the other problem. My friend's also named Will. We call him Will Bill because he can't decide whether he wants to be called Will or Bill. It's very confusing. But because he also has the rules, Russ, it's a real challenge for me because I don't even know if we're actually using the actual rules or just the ones that Will seems to let us know work for this game. Yeah.
Well, our Will's good about that. Like, he sent an email out yesterday explaining everything we did right, what we did wrong, and he's totally into it. And I have to say, his excitement is very contagious, and it is. I have to say the models are awesome, and the fact that, and Craig, it's like when you get into a game because Will has all the terrain,
right?
Everything looks great. It's like I have a great place because normally get a new miniature game, you're like, oh, no, I got to collect all this new terrain, the match. But Will's already got that done for me. So, and he's already got like 4 guys who are into it. There's like 6 different factions. Everybody already owns one. So it's like it's already variety. It's already everybody's already painting, so it's already that whole ecosystem exists already. So it's even more tempting. So I don't know if I'll be able to resist it or not. It's also nice in sci-fi. It's nice to have a really cool sci-fi skirmish game. For whatever reason, Mercs didn't really take off here, but this one could be interesting. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on it. I will keep you guys informed as the progress goes here and see how serious this business becomes.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. My plate's pretty full, but I'm intrigued.
It is interesting.
It is nice because 7-8 models. I think the most I've seen on the table was 15 models in a warband, and the imagery is fantastic.
It looks great, but you could never. First of all, with the terrain volume and with the amount of flexibility each model has, you couldn't really get much more. I couldn't see much more than 10 or 15 models ever at tops because it would just get too. It's just not designed for that. But at low model count, it's awesome because everybody can do so many different things. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I need to get a hold of the rule book myself
I
and really pour into it. I think that's what'll flip me over.
Yeah.
I just finished painting mule bots a couple days ago, and I loved them.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm trying to pay attention to the show here, and I keep looking at this silly book. What about modeling? Speaking of Infinity, Drew, what have you been doing? Any painting lately or anything?
Yeah, I painted up another 2 warbands for Fanticide just recently. This is my 6th set of warbands I've been painting again.
That's a lot.
Well, being part of the sales team,
I see.
I see. Painting quite a bit.
Motivated.
but I'm enjoying them because we deliberately went with models for Fanticide that were really easy to paint and quick to get on the painting table, which is my style. I've always enjoyed fast painting and painting things really so they look decent, but to get them on the gaming table because I like playing games with my models. I spend a lot of time painting, but it's more about getting lots of models painted.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really good. And I've been doing some models from the Otherworld Miniatures company. I'm doing the Men of Evil series right now. And if you haven't seen the Otherworld stuff, they're real traditional Dungeons and Dragons role-playing miniature line with some great sculpted miniatures. And the Men of Evil definitely fit that. They're just that classic evil cleric, bad guy look.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good times.
Nice, awesome. Did you painting that for any particular? You got a RPG event coming up or anything? Or
no, I really just wanted to paint them. They're gorgeous models. I saw them when I was at the Historicon Miniature Gaming Show not too long ago, so I picked them up and just painted them up. I'm sure I'll use them eventually.
Yeah, right.
And I did some scenery as well. I painted up some hostile terrain. These blood trees, they're called.
Ooh.
They're interactive terrain that eat you in the game of Fanticide.
Is that the one that's holding the unicorn on your Kickstarter, on the Fanticide Kickstarter page there?
Yeah, if you look at the Fanticide Kickstarter, you'll see it. That's a converted one that's holding the unicorn, but the blood trees are just interactive scenery that literally work with the Fae to kind of help protect your flanks or defend your center, whatever you want to do. It's good stuff.
Very cool.
Okay, that's just wrong. These Men of Evil look suspiciously like Ku Klux Klan.
They do suspiciously look like that, and I really had to not paint them with white clothes.
I was gonna say,
because when I primed them white, and it was like, ooh, probably a bad idea.
Wasn't there a Necromunda band like that too?
There is, yes, and they have red.
They're supposed to be red or purple, but of course you could have,
The Redeemers.
The Redeemers, right. Nice memory. There you go.
Those guys were great.
They were cool models.
Lots of flamers there. Yes. Lots of fire.
Inquisition. What a show.
That's right. I'm looking at a display case that has a Redeemer gang in it.
There you go.
Right across the room.
Very nice.
No flash from the past there. See, that's the other thing, too, Drew, about Infinity, is it reminds me of Necromunda, but I like the rule set better. And I like the idea of Necromunda with like heavy terrain and all that little. So it's stupid game. I'm liking it. Craig, so what have you been painting?
Wow, Russ, jeez. I had no idea it was going to have this effect on you.
I didn't either. I was really hoping it wouldn't.
Well, I was on a big tear trying to paint all that Malifaux terrain, and I got it all put together, and I got it all sort of painted halfway. I got the GW Ruin Tower, which looks great.
Nice.
I got it's all based and everything. I got the Garden of Moor, which is painted up, and I made a big base for it, so I could take all of the tombs and statues out, and it still leaves a big wide area with a really cool, rickety-looking, creepy-looking haunted fence.
Nice.
And I got a chapel, and I'm painting that up, so that actually fits inside the Garden of Moor if I want to do that. So there's a lot of different variations that I can use to fill up a 3x3 table really quickly. But that all stopped when I got my shipment of Firestorm Invasion Planetfall models. So I was on a tear trying to get all those. And there's a lot more putting things together than there are with any of the other Spartan games also. So where most Spartan games are like, oh, I just dump it out, prime it, and go. These are like, oh, I dump out all these little packets of metal and get rid of all the flashing and then start putting it together. And they look beautiful, but they do take a little bit of time to put together. And I finally did that, and then I decided I got a lot of it, and I wanted to paint it up quick, so I primed it. I asked Jeremy to go with an olive drab color for the Terrans, so they kind of look like almost like a American tank company from Flames of War looking stuff, only with awesome infantry and cool futuristic tanks and stuff. And I decided to go with a desert, with a German desert look from World War II. So I spray painted them with the mustard desert color.
Nice.
And I'm going to do some dry brushing up and then hit them. Jeremy's look awesome. He sprayed them with olive drab. Dry brushed them, and then just hit a couple details. And again, they're Spartan models, so the details really pop. They're right up there just to hit with a brush really quickly. And his looked awesome. My phone died, unfortunately, right before we were going to play, so I didn't get a picture because I wanted to get a picture out there, but I wasn't able to. Hopefully next week. And so I'm really excited about that. And I went on a tear a while ago, and I had a whole bunch of 40K terrain, and I hadn't played 40K in years, and I was never going to play it again, so I sold it all. And the one thing I couldn't sell was the Aegis defense line, and I was like, oh, nobody wants this. That sucks. And it went up on a shelf. And then 6th edition came out, and I went, holy crap, for 50 points I can do what? For 50 points I can give basically my entire Imperial Guard army 4+ invulnerable saves till they get hit in hand-to-hand. Okay, so I'm desperately trying to paint that up, and I got everything painted, but not quite. So I couldn't field it last night in my game, or I would have lost a point. For
let me get this straight. You couldn't field. You couldn't bring yourself to field a mostly painted Aegis defense line against Matt's Space Wolves with no arms and not even primer.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, no, because he didn't get the bonus point.
He didn't even have heads on some of his guys.
I got the bonus point. And Russ, the way the game turned out, I really needed that bonus point.
No, you really needed the defense line, or you would have been.
That's true. Things may have turned out much differently if I had the defense line.
All right.
So I'm looking at it right now, and it's all gold and bronze and concrete color, and I'm just thinking, oh, I really need to somehow squeeze some time into my schedule to finish that up before I face Space Marines again. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. What about you, Russ?
Let's see. Well, been working with my oldest daughter on the Horde. We've been doing painting on Sunday mornings, and she's got her second doggy done from Circle of Ouroboros there. So that's nice, and she's really happy with how it's going along. She's doing great, getting all the paint in the right spots, which is great. And my youngest has joined in. She's painting her Super Dungeon Explorer hero. She chose the little female wizard there. So she's working on that one, and she's doing a great job too. So it's a lot of fun having little family painting mornings on the weekends.
Cool.
Now, while they're painting that, I'm trying to paint stuff too. I'm trying. So Eric Johns was on last chapter before last, and he gave us some tips on some advanced painting techniques with white primer and shading. So I've been experimenting with this on these new Infinity models I've been working on, and I have to say I like where it's heading, although I need a lot of practice. So I'm trying to figure out how to get the right. I'm having trouble getting the right, mixture of water to paint for my shading. I just think I'm going in too heavy. I got to just really lighten it up. So I'm working on it, but I like how I can see what it's supposed to look like, and then when my brush touches, I'm like, I did it wrong again. So I'm working on it, but I definitely like it, and I like it enough to, especially with the anime look, where the white primers, the colors really pop when they're bright, which is the kind of thing you really want on these. So I'm going with the color scheme for these guys, like my old Tau used to be, the bright red with the beige and the tan second tone. So I'm going to try that. So I like it. I like where it's going, but I'm going to have to practice some more. So I'm going to try on this whole 6-squad thing and see 6-member squad and see what happens. So that is what I'm doing with painting.
Cool.
Let's see. What about other random geeky stuff, Drew? You reading any books, seen any movies, anything like that?
Yeah, I just finished this amazing book, and it's a little late because I think everybody else that's interested in zombies has already read this book, but it was called Day by Day Apocalypse, J.L. Bourne. And man, I think it is my new favorite zombie book of all time.
Really?
It was just great. Yeah, it's written by this guy who's active duty military. He's in the Navy.
Yep.
And it reads like a journal. Like, it's basically this guy keeps a journal, and oh my, there's a zombie apocalypse that's happening, and you basically get to connect with him as he writes this journal of what happens every day for the first 6 months of the zombie apocalypse. And it's gruesome, it's dark, it's gut-wrenching. It's really good. I highly recommend it.
Cool.
And I'm a little embarrassed to say this out loud, but I'm going to. I still play EVE Online when I get a chance and fly internet spaceships and make other people cry in space.
Nice. So you're like an evil EVE Online overlord?
I am an evil online overlord. I fly with a pirate corporation, and we spend our whole entire existence trying to really ruin other people's games.
Do you crush noobs? Are you like one of those sweeping in?
Yes.
Look, there's a rookie in Sector 3. Get him.
When we can. We try to crush everybody, but it's a lot of fun for me. My wife absolutely hates it, and lots of people just look at me like, really? People play that? But I like it.
Eve's got quite a large player base. It's kind of one of those sneaky, sort of like sleeper online hits that no one really either you know about it and it's amazing, or it's just sort of this really it's out there kind of thing.
It's such a steep learning curve. Like I tried to get a good friend of mine playing Eve, and it didn't last very long. Mostly because to get into it, it's just they haven't made it easy. Like
right, and isn't the economy like really sophisticated? Like, have there actual been econ college books written about this game? Like,
there have been, and there's a it truly is a completely player-based economy, and the one of the things that I enjoy about it is the game actively encourages scams and that kind of pirating thing. Like they've just openly said, if you're dumb enough to fall for giving all your stuff to somebody, then you gave all your stuff to somebody. Enjoy it.
Nice.
And I like that, but it makes it hard for some people.
Yeah, no forgiving. That's cool. Well, it's good. That's awesome, Drew. Well, you're passionate about that. It's cool. Craig, what have you been doing lately?
Geeking out on? Well, let's see. I finally finished. This isn't really geek. Well, it's history geeking out. I finally finished Team of Rivals. Ooh. And I learned a whole new lesson on when you've got a Kindle. And that is, don't get too discouraged by the percentage count when you're reading a history book. Because I was like, oh my God, I've been reading it for 2 months and I'm only 52% of the way through. Oh my God, it's the epilogue. Because half of the book Team of Rivals is footnotes. And so I was literally like, oh my God, like they just killed him and all this stuff. And it's very much it's very much focused on his life and the life of his cabinet. So when President Lincoln is killed, it then immediately goes to, and this is how all the other cabinet died. You're like, oh, really not a lot on John Wilkes Booth, nothing on how John Wilkes Booth got captured, and nothing on what happened afterwards as far as the country goes. All I learned is that, wow, Lincoln's family was unlucky, except for his oldest son, and his entire cabinet was really unlucky. So I loved it. I really, really loved it. It was time well spent. I really enjoyed it. It was possibly one of the most emotionally affecting books I've read in a long time. I'm still even more fascinated by Lincoln now than I was. But I'm like, what? Seriously, the assassination got like maybe 5 pages. So I went and I decided I was going to give a chance to Bill O'Reilly's Killing Lincoln, because Bill O'Reilly's Killing Lincoln has been like in the New York Times top 10 for over a year. So I'm thinking, Bill O'Reilly may be a polarizing figure, but you're not going to stay in the top 10 on the New York Times unless people from both sides like you. So I figured it wouldn't be all spinny or whatever. And so I read it. I didn't read it. I listened to it. Great book. Awesome book. Very sensationalist. It's got some things that don't agree with Team of Rivals, and it lacks the 48% footnotes that Team of Rivals has. So I tend to think maybe Team of Rivals maybe got a little bit more correct. But oh my God, Bill O'Reilly should never be allowed to narrate his own books. That man, I like Bill O'Reilly. Okay, I'm just gonna go out and say that. I think he's funny. But oh my God, it's like people who have watched this show will know what I mean when I say it was 9 hours of talking points. That's all it was. and the way, and with the exact same inflection and Bill, several mispronounced words. I'm sad to say, the General Lee was not desperate for rations. Let's put it that way.
Was it a ruse or a ruse?
Easy now, buddy. And good call, touche.
I think it was well played, Drew.
Well played. But yeah, I mean, the book was excellent, very, very interesting. Goes into detail about Booth and the whole conspiracy and how it started and who all the different people were. It's got a really neat little section that kind of like details the last few major battles in the Civil War. They don't really involve the assassination, but that was really kind of neat to get that point of view on. So I really, really, really enjoyed it. I am, however, excited to go back to sci-fi and fantasy now. And so I picked up on my Kindle the brand new Horus Heresy book, Fear to Tread. I'm not a huge Blood Angels fan, but that's the next book, and I wanted to give it a shot. And damn you, Forge World!
Did you fall for another Forge World product?
What do you mean another Forge World product? I have successfully escaped all but a bits order here or there my entire time playing Warhammer 40,000. And this month, Forge World unveiled its newest line of products, the Warhammer 30,000 game, which is basically it's
Horus Heresy, right?
Playing Warhammer 40,000 in the Horus Heresy with the book is £70 and I bought it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, 7. But if you think about it, it's 4 codexes, and codexes nowadays cost $50 each.
Oh,
so I figure I'm saving 100. Not
dude,
really,
it's a value at twice the price.
Seriously. Exactly. Maybe not, but I've always been a huge fan of the Horus Heresy. I have the Collected Visions book. Blah 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 blah. Vincent gave me the Collected Visions book as a gift at some point in the past year or so, and so I'm just a huge fan. And I have all the bits to make a pre-heresy army, and they've been put away for 5 years because I haven't been playing. And all of a sudden, here's the chance to play it. So I got all excited, and of course, Shifty, once again being the enabler, was like, Craig, jump on with me, and I'm buying so much stuff you won't have to pay shipping. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I did that. And that's pretty much it, because I've been working on something that I'm like ironclad NDA, not allowed to speak of in any direct way whatsoever. But it has been taking up a huge amount of my time. Brand new company, has nothing to do with any of the other companies that I've worked for in the past or am working for now. And unbelievable stuff coming out but I've just been like ridiculous, no free time at all. All of that modeling and everything I did prior to this project starting. I'm calling it Project X, and it's huge.
Neat.
And I'll be able to talk about it probably in a couple months. But right now, it's biggest thing I've ever worked on. It's something brand new for me. I'm really ridiculously super excited. And speaking of super excited, Jeremy promised that when the Walking Dead webisodes came out, he would remind me, because I always forget. And he reminded me, and I watched them all this week. And it was funny because I watched them in my classroom between classes, and they kept making announcements, and I was yelling at the PA system by the end. I was like, I just want to watch this stupid clip. But that's a public servant for you.
When you watch as much Revolution as you do, you're hungering for quality entertainment. I understand.
Right. Hey, Russ, I haven't seen an episode, thanks to Project X, since the first one.
Well, you're not
and I still
anything.
say that I enjoyed the first one. So there you go.
Drew, have you seen Revolution? You watched this show?
I need to watch it. My daughter
no, you don't.
loves that show. Like my teenage daughter.
So
okay, Russ, why don't you go talk trash about his teenage daughter? Go ahead, let's hear it.
I'm not talking trash about her. I'm just saying the show's crap. That's all I'm saying.
She did say to me, though, as she was telling me it, she did look at me and say, well, you might not like it. It's kind of for girls. So,
ouch, Drew.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it that way.
Ouch.
But that's
Achievement, Drew. That was
Drew,
fantastic.
Do I wear a target on my back? What is up with the third chair taking pot shots at me all the time? What is going on with that?
Drew, you can come back anytime.
You paying a bounty? Is that what's going on?
Open invitation, Drew. Open invitation. Come back to the show.
Yeah, so sorry. I did not. That was unintentional. Didn't mean it to sound
Dude,
like
don't apologize. You know, when you get something that brilliant out, you just got to let it go.
Can't fool me with such a blatant
Ride that wave.
ruse.
A ruse. Yeah, so it's kind of funny about the Revolution thing because we got a lot of feedback on Craig and mine's discussion last episode on whether or not the show is worth watching or not. And it's kind of funny because on Twitter, it seems to be the majority of responses have been in favor of the show is worth watching. And on Facebook, it's the exact opposite. So I don't know what that says about the type of people who tweet.
Well, it
or
says
Facebook.
on Twitter, people can still be thinking on their own, and the group think on Facebook is just totally taking over, and Russ's silverback gorilla mentality has totally brutalized them into a one point of view mob, really.
Well, the funny thing about
That's what it says to me.
Look, all I have to say is if you have to spend 16 tweets explaining why muskets are realistic in the show, it might not be realistic to have muskets in the show.
You got to do that to you.
I'm going to watch it.
One tweet to me.
All right, Drew, we need a report. We need a follow-up email.
I'm watching it tonight.
Okay.
And I will give you
All right.
we'll
have you on. Drew, send me a soundbite. I'll put it later in the show. Drew's quick thoughts on Revolution.
You got it. That's my mission tonight. I'm going to
Done.
paint
Okay,
some
that's gonna happen.
miniatures and
It's
I'm
a
watching
quick
whatever I
intro.
can find.
Only if you don't like Revolution is that going to make it into the show.
No, it'll be in there. I'll
just
put
give
it in as the blooper on the end. I guarantee it'll be in the show. All right. So let's see. Oh, here's what I'm actually, though, things I am enjoying. I finished The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie.
Oh, I love that book.
Oh, is this a good book? Drew, you read it.
Oh, yeah. I love his stuff.
And you know what's funny is so normally I am really good about Audible. I almost never buy the books. I just, wait for my credits to recharge. Yeah. So I got finished with The Blade Itself, the first book. And I didn't notice the other two were already on Audible. So today I noticed it, and my credit recharges 3 days from now. And I could not wait. I immediately bought.
Really?
I spent $13 for the next book. Oh, these books. In fact, the Inquisitor, what's his name, Drew? The Inquisitor guy.
In the books, in the Blade itself.
Not Eisenhorn. Yeah, he's a good one too, but not this one. In the Blade itself is Glockter, Inquisitor Glockter, the guy who was tortured. I mentioned the last time. He is so great. He's like, because the book bounces from perspective to perspective, he gets all the good lines. He's like Tyrion Lannister. You know when you read Game of Thrones and it comes to Tyrion, like, oh yeah, Tyrion chapter. He's like that. His lines are fantastic. The way he thinks are awesome. Great book. Second book is just as good. I'm about 2 chapters in. It's still fantastic. I cannot speak highly enough about this book.
I think that it is the best fantasy book series.
I agree.
Really?
I thought
Yes.
Name of the Wind was
Hands
really good. This, I think, I prefer this to not to put them against each other because they're great books, but this is some of the best reading I've enjoyed, like best new find for me in like I don't know how long. This is awesome. So highly recommend it. Really, really good.
Yeah, they're amazing. If you're looking for a fantasy read, it's a little dark.
Yep.
But great. Really, really well written.
Oh, yeah. And now, see, if you like me and you like to listen to books, definitely check out Audible. Our Audible deal is basically you go to our website, click on the Audible logo on the side, and they'll hook you up with what, Craig? A free credit, which gets you what?
Oh, a free credit will get you almost any book in the Audible library, which is awesome because most of those are going to cost you. I don't know, Russ, how much did you pay?
Well, that's the great thing. Normally, if you're not a member of Audible, it would have been $26 for this book. It cost me $13. So even though I couldn't wait for my credit to recharge, it was only $13 for a 24-hour audiobook. And then when my credit recharges 3 days from now, I'll just get the third one, and I'll have the entire series all for 2 Audible credits in my thing. And what's great about the Audible deal we have going on right now is you get a free credit. If you decide to cancel, you don't pay anything, and you still get that book forever. And if you decide to keep subscribing, you're going to get 30 days of free trial. And that 30 days will let you buy these books at the low price I was telling you about and get all the great deals. It's a great deal. If you like listening to books, just check it out. Get Audible.
That's awesome.
Audible is like miniature painter's best friend.
Oh,
I
yes.
paint so many more miniatures because I'm listening to a book and I just don't want to stop, so I just keep painting.
It's fantastic.
It's
fantastic. Now, speaking of fantastic, I've also been playing a little bit of a game called Borderlands 2. Now, Drew, I don't know if you're a Borderlands guy. Have you played any Borderlands? Is that your cup of tea?
I am. I've already played through Borderlands 2.
That a surprise. And now, did you play co-op with all your buddies?
I didn't get to play any co-op. I need to go back and play some co-op.
So the problem,
now everybody's playing it.
So the game's fantastic co-op, right? And that's its big fun. The problem I have is I never get very far because a friend comes on and I always go back and do the levels again with him because it's so much fun. But Borderlands 2 is so good. And to quote our friend Will /Shifty, who just plays along, he's like, oh man, I just fought like this level 30 thing. It was flying. It was the size of a small house. I grabbed this rocket launcher at 8,000 points of damage. So good. That's all I can say. So good. So the quote
The humor in that game
is so good, and the lines are great. Handsome Jack, so much fun.
The humor is great.
And the great thing about it is the overall arcing story. It's actually in 2. There's a little more story to it, but really, it's just the one-liners and the writing dialogue. You don't really even care about the over story. It's just playing with your friends and these little crazy, over-the-top characters that they make that are all stereotypical whatever, white trash or whatever, just in the game. Really funny stuff. And now, Drew, I don't know. It sounds like you're a pretty big video game guy.
I am.
What are you going to do next Tuesday? Because 2 huge games are coming out next Tuesday.
Oh, I'm going to not do anything because my wife will be playing XCOM, and
Your wife's
I
at
won't
XCOM.
get to even touch any kind of electronic device.
So your wife has already locked down the PCs like, no, this is mine for 2 weeks.
She, XCOM is her favorite thing on the planet. She loves XCOM. Video game, XCOM. She can't wait.
Now, she played the demo? She downloaded it already?
She has, and she loves it.
Yeah, see, I'm all over X. Everybody, in fact, Craig, I was going to warn you because next Tuesday, everybody and their cousin is going to be home playing XCOM. XCOM Enemy Within, they finally remade XCOM the way it should be, which is a tactical squad-based simulator, not some first-person shooter thing, whatever that abortion is going to be.
Jeez.
So that's going to be awesome. So I cannot wait. All of us are really excited. The demo is fantastic. Looks really, really good. But also, Dishonored comes out next Tuesday as well. Are you familiar with this game, Drew?
I am.
Are you excited about that also?
Not as much as XCOM, but I'll pick it up and I'll definitely play it.
So, yeah, because Dishonored was kind of sort of on my radar, but when I started seeing some of the recent footage of it, it looks very much like Assassin's Creed meets BioShock. So it's very nimble, dodgy stuff, but then it's all like the super steampunk, crazy universe. Looks really interesting. So now I'm kind of I want to try that too. So too many good games, and that's even worse because then November hits, and then it's all the holiday stuff comes out, and you got your Halo 4 and everything else coming out. So it's going to be a crazy video game holiday season. I don't know where I'm going to find the time, but I'm going to try to jam it all in. That is my achievements. Any other achievements, guys?
No, I think that's it.
All right, there we go. That's achievements.
Yay.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
Oh, I tell you, Greg, Battle Foam. They're so awesome.
Yeah.
So I actually,
you don't have to tell me.
you know what I just got? I just spent. Now they didn't give me a deal. They didn't send this to me for review. I went out and I'm like, I'm going to buy that because I want it. I bought the Iron Kingdoms RPG messenger bag. Oh, I love it. I am so thrilled.
Yeah.
Just came in the mail
Isn't
last
it
week.
awesome? I saw it at Gen Con. I almost got it.
I love it. And it's great because it's got the nice pockets in the front there. It's got the nice Iron Kingdom patch on the front, but that's a Velcro patch that pops right off, so you can replace it with, I don't know, say a D6G patch if you want to. So it's a great general RPG bag, and it's great because the thing I normally used to carry all my RPG stuff, I like to keep all my characters and all my dice and all that stuff in. I used to have a little special clipboard thing that opened and closed, and it got destroyed on my trip to Gen Con, so I needed a new transport. This messenger bag is perfect. It's got little pods filled with foam. You can carry a small amount of models in there. So, in an RPG, you don't need many. Maybe your character, a couple models if you're the GM, maybe some monsters. It's also got great spots for the pens, a little pouch in the side, the zipper pouch you can put your dice in. The inside's it's expandable too. It unzips and it gets bigger for if you're carrying a lot of books around. Great shoulder strap, really nice quality components, heavy duty. It's just awesome, just like everything Battle Foam does.
Absolutely.
I really like it. And I'm also, I've been happy with my Zombicide Battle Foam. I picked that up, and it's been fantastic. It fits right in the box, so it's all my zombies. Zip in and out really easily. I'm loving that, too. I've been using my Malifaux Battle Foam bag a lot. Great for my skirmish games. My Infinity guys are in there. My Malifaux guys are in there. Of course, speaking of Infinity, they have their own Infinity licensed products, the Infinity bags as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, Battle Foam and Infinity are hand in hand.
Yeah, it really
and of
is.
course, don't forget that they just came out with X-Wing foam too.
Oh, that's right. And it fits right. People are asking us too, what size bag does it go in? The X-Wing foam is designed to go right into the X-Wing box.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, there's always a little bit of a lip. The foam doesn't quite fit. The box top goes right over it and you're all set. So there's no problems with it. And any of these board games or boxed games, generally the foam that you get from Battle Foam goes right into that original box, which is cool.
Awesome. And don't forget also, if you want to custom make it for anything you're doing, Not only can you put custom shapes in the foam, but you can get the foam cut to custom sizes. So if you have a particular shape or box size you need to fill in for an older game, let's say you got an old copy of Descent 1, you finally want to foam it up or whatever, you can do that kind of stuff with Battle Foam. Tell them exactly what the shapes you want, tell them exactly the tray size you want, and they'll make it for you. They do all that kind of work. It's fantastic.
That's crazy.
So check them out at battlefoam.com.
Hooah!
And now, what's in the news? Brought to you by Nothing Personal, a game of bribery and blackmail by Tom Vassell and Steve Avery. Coming soon to Kickstarter.com, powered by Game Salute. Oh, there you go. Let's see. Ooh, speaking of Game Salute in the shout out there, Game Salute's in the news as they just acquired Clever Mojo Games. Both Game Salute and Clever Mojo announced recently that they are proud to announce that David McKenzie, founder of Clever Mojo Games, is now serving as Chief Springboard Officer for Game Salute. In addition, Game Salute has acquired publishing rights for all the Clever Mojo titles. Should be an interesting partnership. Speaking of partnerships, the digital rights for Talisman has been announced. That's right, Talisman now has a digital publisher. Nomad Games over at nomadgames.co.uk has announced they have the rights for Talisman and will be publishing it on various platforms, starting with the PC, but then eventually smartphones and tablets as well. Sounds interesting. Oh, let's see. Oh, also the SSU Airborne Walker Transport, the long-awaited SSU unit that was delayed to some production issues, should now be available at your local retailer for all you Dust Warfare and Tactics fans. Let's see. Oh, also, if you're a Shadows over Camelot fan and couldn't wait for the card game rules for Shadows over Camelot are now available on the Days of Wonder website. You can check that out. And let's see. Oh, Rafe wanted to let you all know that there is a new expansion just released for Lord of the Rings Online. I know. I hit the negative achievement button, but Rakelin's hidden it from me. Quiet, Wicklin. Anyway, here's what Rafe wanted you to know. There's 10 new levels, so you can go up to level 85 now. There's a new area to explore, half of Rohan. There's new mounted combat, so you can actually fight from horseback. There's 3 steed types. See, there's the light steed, the medium steed, and the heavy steed, destrier, if you will. There's all kinds of stats for your war steed now. There's various mounted combat skills you can pick up. Your war steed can actually gain experience points and level up like your character. You can customize the appearance of your war steed. So I guess if you really wanted to have your very own horse steed to take care of in real life, now you can do it in Lord of the Rings Online. So check that out. And speaking of video games, let me hit the microphone. What's your problem? Oh, XCOM's awesome. Wicklin wants you to know that XCOM Unknown Enemy is out. Now, those of you following along the news will know there are 2 XCOM titles currently in development. One of them is XCOM Enemy Unknown, and the other one is some XCOM first-person shooter that no one cares about. The reason no one cares about the first-person shooter is that's not XCOM. XCOM is a tactical it's a tactical squad-based combat game set in a world where aliens are invading Earth. And XCOM Enemy Unknown is true to the original, fantastic game back in the 90s. It is now out and is fantastic. Wicklin basically spent the entire weekend playing it through and solved the whole darn thing in 20-plus hours. Loved every minute of it and wants you to know, just go buy it. XCOM Enemy Unknown on Xbox, PC, and some other platforms as well. I'll let Wicklin on the mic now to make some kind of announcement about Extra Life. What did you got, Wicklin? Yeah, let me tell Mike. Here we go. Okay, sorry, everybody. This is Russ. Just want to let you know, as many of you may know, I mentioned on the show before, I've got a huge family vacation coming up this October. And unfortunately, I will be I'll just say I'll be in the Pacific Ocean during Extra Life. So, unfortunately, I won't be able to participate in Extra Life. And I thought it'd be really bad for me I wouldn't really be fair to those who are staying up all night, playing 24 hours, for me to get pledges and actually not actually do the 24 hours of gaming, which I would do. And I can't even make up on the makeup day because literally I'm on vacation until Carnage, then I'm in Carnage, then I got a business trip, and so it's just crazy busy stuff for me right now. So, unfortunately, I can't really do it. So, for those of you who want to support Extra Life, and hopefully all of you do, and those of you who aren't actually participating yourselves, then please donate to Craig. Craig's working very hard on this year as he did last year, and as he mentioned elsewhere in the show, he's got some awesome prizes that he and Spartan Games have teamed up to make it great for anybody who donates, contributes directly to Craig. So head on over to the link provided in these show notes and on our main website, and donate to Craig for Extra Life if you want to help support it. And please do. It's a great cause, fantastic cause, and I really feel bad I can't participate this year, and I'm looking forward to get back into it next year. Have fun, everybody. Game, and take care of those kids. All right. Thank you, Wicklin. And that's What's in the News.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. And now we are extremely grateful to have
And
not
excited.
one.
And excited.
And excited. We're excited too. Thank you. My walking anthology of information.
Thrilled even.
Thank you, indeed.
No problem.
So actually, we're super thrilled and excited, and all the other possible words that Russ could come up with.
Ecstatic. Ecstatic even. Sorry,
What-
go ahead.
what-
Go ahead. Why are you stopping?
You have like a thesaurus open in front of you. Is that what
No,
you're doing right now?
I'm good. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thanks. Can I go?
Yes.
You sure? Okay. We are all those words and more to have not one but two interviewees. We have two guests that we're gonna talk a lot about the new game Fanticide that's coming out from Alien Dungeons, and we're gonna get the whole lowdown on that. It's gonna touch on Kickstarters and new marketing schemes and everything. And Drew is involved with this, so he's gonna help us pull out some more juicy information. The designers of this game, it really does read like a who's who of the gaming industry. You've got Rick Priestley, Andy Chambers, Alessio Cavatore, who is with us. Hello, Alessio.
Hello, hi guys.
Welcome back.
Hey, welcome back. And we have a new I'm sorry. A new voice to the listenership, Ernie Baker. Ernie, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And E. Sky Cheney fills out the team. So first of all, we have with us, like I said, we have Ernie Baker and Alessio Cavatore. Alessio, how have you been since we spoke to you last?
Oh, I've been fine. I've been extremely busy. Yes, many things. Many things.
Other than Fanticide, which we'll talk about in depth now, can you talk about any of the other stuff you've been working on? You've been keeping busy?
Oh, yes. Well, Ernie has already captured a lot of my time with several other projects, but I'm sure he will tell you more about them. I'm not quite sure what I can talk about or not, so I leave that to Ernie. On top of Ernie's projects, of course, I've been working on Bolt Action for Warlord Games, Warpath and Kings of War 3 for Mantic, and Deus Vult, which is a Crusaders game for an Italian company called Fireforge.
Oh, wow. So you have been keeping moderately busy.
Quite.
Wow. Excellent. And now, Ernie, you are new to the show. And so, of course, we have to start with our traditional question. Ernie Baker, are you now or have you ever been a gamer?
I think I've always been a gamer, certainly since 1979, 1980. It's a long time.
That is a long time. Now, establish your geek cred. How did it all start?
I started with playing Lord of the Rings games from a very ancient company called Heritage Miniatures. And I started that when I was in college. From there, it was Dungeons & Dragons, far too many hours playing Traveler instead of studying at university.
Nice.
And then a lot more miniature games after that. So it's never really stopped. I guess I got into historicals towards the end of the 1980s, but science fiction has actually always been my personal gaming passion.
Excellent. And could you tell us a little bit about your previous work in the industry? Like what is the Ernie Baker origin story that brings us up to Alien whatever.
I spent a very long and fruitful career in the toy industry. I started at Kenner Toys. The very first project I worked on was the Ewok Village.
I was going to ask, Kenner must be Star Wars.
Huge favorite.
Must be, I know. Who doesn't have the Ewok Village?
The Star Wars line, I was very young. I was only 19 years old when I started there.
Wow. That was kind of like a dream come true, I bet.
Yeah, it was a dream come true. I didn't even realize how good I had it until a few months had gone by, and I realized I was working on Star Wars. So I started there. I worked on an awful lot of toy properties for a very long time, just about every major licensed property that came out. I touched in one way or another. And I stopped my career in 2000. I was the vice president of design from Tell Toys.
Wow.
And went from there and accepted a position after having worked with Games Workshop on the acquisition for the Lord of the Rings license. I came and I worked for Games Workshop in the U.S. for 9 years.
Wow. There you go. Another GW alumni there, right?
Another GW alumni.
Right.
And I left Games Workshop, I guess, about 3 years ago. For the first couple of years, I kind of puttered around a bit, especially on the historical side of the miniature gaming thing. And I started Alien Dungeon. I think the company as a brand is probably about 3 months old.
Wow, it's brandy new.
So
look at that.
Very new stuff.
Still in swaddling clothes.
I got to ask, how did you guys, I mean, it is like every major name in miniature game design here involved with this project. How did you guys come together and decide, hey, we're going to all work together on one game? How did that happen?
From my perspective, I knew that to do some of the projects I wanted to do with Alien Dungeon, I needed to work with some really good people. And Rick Priestley actually was the first name that came to mind. And in a way, Rick led me to Alessio and Riverhorse. Because while Alessio and I were at GW at the same time, it was more of a relationship where we passed in the hallway rather than spend a lot of time together.
Okay.
And then through Riverhorse and Alessio, Andy Chambers got involved in Fanticide. So in the end, it's not like we sat down and plotted out getting the biggest names in miniature gaming together on it. But it came together, and it came together because actually we needed the talents of all three of those guys to pull off what we were doing with Fanticide. So that's the origin story there.
Excellent. Now, so you started with the concept for Fanticide, and then started putting the team together. Where did the can you give us a little idea of where the initial concept came from and how it formed?
I was having a conversation with a group of gaming guys around the gaming table, and there was about 10 of us. And the game was over. We'd had a really nice time playing a miniatures game. The science fiction game, actually. And someone asked the question if they still played fantasy games. And we all kind of said, oh, wow. None of us had played any fantasy games for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And we asked ourselves why. And then that started a discussion about what we weren't doing in fantasy and why we weren't playing some of the games that were out there. And that kind of led to, well, what would a good fantasy game look like? And from there, it just kind of kept rolling. That's the clearest message I can give you. I got started. It's a bunch of guys that wanted to play a game that they thought they would enjoy.
Oh, cool.
Neat. How did you guys... go ahead.
I think there was something about not having a fantasy game which had elves and dwarves and...
Well, that was definitely a part of it, because while we all really liked the Tolkien-esque fantasy stuff with dwarves and goblins and zombies and all the rest, for some of us, having played with those races, the various guises, for a very long time, I think we kind of wanted to do something a bit different. And then that started lots of conversations about other fantasy concepts that we liked. Some of those came from Japanese anime, and a big chunk of us around the table are huge fans of a show called Adventure Time.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if you've ever got to see that.
I have, but
I have not. Yeah. Sounds interesting.
It's a fantastic program. It's on the Cartoon Network. They're 15-minute cartoons. If you haven't checked it out, you got to, because it's just brilliant. Really well done. So it was the fairy tale thing. It was fantasy that was not Tolkien-esque, and that led us down this path to kind of do what we've done with the background and the races and the presentation, really, of Fanticide as a game.
Excellent. So it sort of started with the background, the fluff, a desire to do something different with all of that, and then the mechanics came in after that to sort of fit in with the theme.
The mechanics came about in a bit of along a parallel path. But we were talking about mechanics for games that were different than what's been traditional for most of us for a long time. We didn't want to play an I go, you go kind of game. We wanted to try to get our heads around that a little bit. And it was about the scale of the game. We all liked fantasy games, but none of us wanted to invest lots and lots of time or treasure to play one. So we decided that, well, how can we make a mechanic that gives us a really satisfying game, but kind of requires a minimalistic approach to the number of models and the amount of effort it would take to get a warband painted up. So all of those things started to kind of be different seeds, and we had to pull that together.
And now, how did you pull that together? You've got... one might almost look at the list of people that you've got working on the project and say, lots of chiefs, not a lot of braves. So how did the team sort of shake itself out as far as what each person was working on, or was it all just like a really truly a team effort where the ideas were bouncing back and forth, or like? Draw that
I
out
would
for
say
us.
that actually it had more to do with everybody that was involved really kind of bringing their particular expertise to certain segments of it.
Uh-huh.
Rick was definitely the guy who kind of kept everything circled together so that one idea didn't take us completely off the direction that we set out to go in. And Rick, from my perspective, was the best muse on this project that I could kind of have, because he was the guy who brought a lot of cohesion. And that was done mostly through conversation as much as through his participation, just conversing about it a lot. Alessio is one of the best mechanical rule writers I've ever known. I've always been an admirer of his work. And he's the one, from my perspective...
What do you mean, one of the...
One of.
You did just such a great job with the mechanics and making sure that the game played fast and furious, which is something we wanted. And Andy really brought a lot to the table. My favorite part that Andy did was actually when we were trying to get our heads around the scenario section of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been kind of typical to have scenarios that are, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 scenarios in different rule books, but everybody tends to just want to play head-to-head.
Uh-huh.
And what what Andy was able to do is actually take the concept of having these 7 deadly sins, as each one being a different scenario, and pull that together into one great big workable process so that every game of Fanticide you play, if you choose, can be very different.
Oh, neat.
He did great. So a lot of really good people, maximum talent on this, and they each brought their best bit in. I'm very pleased with the result.
From my point of view, I mean, I can try to answer the same question from a different point of view, because obviously I was contacted by Ernie, and he was like, I was talking to Rick about this, because Rick is, let's say, a common friend, and so Rick dragged me in, and what I did, I just went, okay, well, River Horse is gonna help with this, and River Horse really, which I created to make my own games, ended up being something completely different. Where actually, I'm not really, frankly, I don't have time to look after my own games. what tends to happen now is that it's turned a bit into, I don't know, Ernie, if you can have the same thing, but it turns a bit like an A-team of game design, a war game design. As in, it's like, okay, you can get these guys, and if you know where to find them, you can get these guys to work for you. And,
Nice.
I love it.
That's right, the A-team. And we basically tried to get all the people that I knew were interested in and had good potential for this kind of stuff. And Andy was one of them. And there's more people that that will be working on some other projects that Ernie is working on at the moment, some more names. I don't know if Ernie wants to make them. But, basically it's become a little bit of I'm lucky that I'm in Nottingham, where all of this talent live pretty much at the moment. So I can actually go and talk to them directly. And, yes, like Ernie said, we all kind of brought our little bit of expertise on the things we're best at. And to what Ernie said about Rick's role, which obviously, yes, was absolutely the kind of the mastermind, I think another thing that Rick did, which is invaluable, is he looked after the language. Mm-hmm. I think Rick has an amazing gift for writing text that is so full of flavor, so full of... and I'm talking about rules, because... literally, the rules themselves become a good read. Become something that you enjoy reading, as opposed to something that feels obscure and nasty and difficult to understand. You read Rick's rules, and you just think, "Oh wow, this is fun. This is interesting. This is such a good tone." So there was a lot of that. Basically, Rick took my English, which tends to be very dry and with light Italian accent, and turned with the English, and it just turned into this fantastic flavoursome Rick Christie's English, which is I think the best rules as far as rules are.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
I'd add into that too, Alessio, that the mechanics of the rules and the way the game plays are, of course, very important. It's a miniatures game first and foremost. But we've written a fair chunk of fiction for that, and that's actually been done by Sky. And it's got a nice rich background because trying to pull flying winged fez monkeys and creeps and all this stuff together into a sensible format was an interesting journey in and of itself. And Rick really made a great connection between this great fiction that they have in the background and pulling the rules into that so that it reads with a lot of good continuity. And I think that's really important for a product like this.
Oh, absolutely.
That is absolutely the background is what actually made us interested in the project to start with. I mean, it was the reading Sky's stories that made us go, wow, this is mental, but in a good way. Wow. So, yes, absolutely. Like I always say, really, that's kind of a mantra is rules come out of the background, out of the IP. Rules have to be a product, an expression of the IP. So it all starts from the story. It all starts from that. And indeed, the job that Sky and yourself, I mean, there's a lot of you as well in that, isn't there, Ernie? Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of pin-up fantasies, I think, from my side, which isn't necessarily good. We'll see how the public reacts.
So it's interesting. It sounds like the driving force for this game concept was really background and fiction and the universe you're creating. You know, it's something that's not Tolkien-esque, something different and hasn't been played before. Less so than maybe someone sat around and had a great idea for a new style of mechanic for a miniature war game, right? That was sort of the...
Absolutely. The truth of it was we were pretty resistant. We were working on several projects, actually, of which Fanticide is only our first. And Drew said to me that one of the things you guys would like to have for your show is a little bit of news. So at the end, or when you think it's appropriate, I thought I would tell you about our next project.
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, don't forget that. Right,
that gets its own bullet point.
Because I haven't even told anybody on our own website about this one, but I'll be happy to tell you about it.
Excellent.
Anyway, yes, the background in the IP was really what started to get us the most excited because we had no intention of doing a fantasy game. Even after that first conversation, it was people that I know, a lot of us weren't playing fantasy games, so we said, well, what would appeal to us? And we spent less time in the beginning actually talking about mechanics than we did about background. And when Sky got involved, and I started that process by simply asking her to write some poems, oddly enough. And the poems and then all of the text that she started to write, and she started to paint a picture of what life would be like in Nowhere, this world we'd be fantasized around. I think we all got excited about that, didn't we, Alessio?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
God sucked us in.
So
the poetic side is important because actually there's a lot in Fanticide that feels poetic in the sense it feels not linear, it feels strange, it feels odd. It is that thing that, you know, when you read a poem, maybe is not in logic sense. The logic does not apply, but the words create an atmosphere, create a flow. So it is a poetic game in the sense of how weird and bizarre it is.
Oh, neat. So
excellent.
Let's start talking about the game, but can you guys give us, you've mentioned so much about the background, and can someone, I don't know who would best be able to do this, but give us a quick sort of the 30-second elevator pitch of the background. Like, what is this universe of Fanticide? What is it?
It's basically the concept of a place called Nowhere, which is imagining an island that's so huge you can barely measure it, that's just floating in what we like to call a nothing. And right smack dab in the middle of this land or this island is something called the Hole. And it's some kind of strange warp gate, portal. I don't know. A lot of times we don't bother to explain some of it. We just put it in there, and that's how things come to the land of Nowhere. And you've got all these races. There's all these different kinds of creatures. There's lots of room for anything, which was really important for something else we wanted to do, which was a really good and strong warband creation system. And to keep that kind of a game from becoming a dog's breakfast, we had to give it some form of boundary, but boundaries that were open to let you use your own figure collection if you wanted. So Nowhere explains that in the sense that you have this portal that everything comes through, and you never know what's going to come through there. Some of it's tremendously funny, and some of it is really horrible. whimsically grim became the two words that we were most often using to describe everything we were trying to do.
Whimsically grim, I like
so, yeah, it's a twisted fairy tale. I had a great-grandmother who used to collect a lot of really nice books, and a lot of them were fairy tale books, and I read the whole Wizard of Oz series when I was at her house growing up, and I had a memory of all that stuff. And one of the things I thought was, well, that's very non-Tolkien-esque. What can we do with that fantasy? And that's how Nowhere kind of got its shape. So you've got this land. There aren't massive armies in Nowhere. It really is a warband survival, homicidal warband. It's just fighting for survival all the time. Nice. But we've given each race that we've done enough depth that you can do a lot more exploration if you want to with those.
Oh, neat.
What does the warband creation system mean for the actual miniature games?
Alessio, I think that's a great one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say that this is the first time for me that, that's probably from a rules writer point of view, this is the bit that I would judge as the most exciting thing for me. Because basically what happens is in the book you have the core rules and the advanced rules, which have magic and stuff, and you have 4 warbands, which I think Ernie should tell what they are because he makes a funnier story than I. But there's 4 warbands in there. But also a very important appendix at the end of the book basically tells you if you have a collection of models, if you have some models, an army, whatever, some models you want to use and are not, they don't fit with these 4 warbands, which is quite difficult because they're very unique anyway, those warbands. But if you have models and you want to make your own little warband and play with your models, even historical models, whatever, anything you like to have, that rip-raff collection of stuff that you collected maybe for role-play games, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You can make a warband, and the way that works is I have effectively gone through the process I devised to create the point values of the models. It's something that I've never done in any other system that I worked on, to be honest, because that's something that I normally keep under the bonnet. Mm-hmm. It's something that I keep, as a secret of my trade, it's how to it's the arcane science that allows you to make point values and stats and abilities for your races, for your miniatures. Basically, in Fanticide, I've been very open, and I've effectively told everybody, the customers, what process I've gone through to make the point values in Fanticide. So therefore, the people can actually just follow the same pattern and come to more or less the same place. And of course, it's not an exact science, as in there's always a degree of adjusting and gut feeling, and some things are not very easy to measure, some special rules and stuff like this. So, of course, it's not precise to the point, but certainly as far as ballpark in general, cost of models and their abilities and how the structure of a warband is, the core structure of the warband, it's all there. So you can actually build your own thing with your own point values, and eventually we hope that people will do that and maybe submit some of their stuff, and some of it may become official. I don't know. I suppose it's part of the marketing plan that Ernie will talk about later. But yeah, that's the bit that got me really excited, is that kind of do it openly and showing my workings to the people, if you want.
Oh, that's neat.
That is very cool. Now, so we've talked a bit of, actually, Ernie, Alessio threw you under the bus on this one. So why don't you do that and tell us a little bit about these 4 warbands that the game has at launch?
We have the 4 warbands that were chosen in the end out of literally a dozen that we had. They were chosen for 2 reasons. One was the availability of some of the models was already there through our partnership with Eureka Miniatures on this program. And the second key driving force was to make sure that whatever we chose as a warband wasn't more Tolkien-esque fantasy.
Uh-huh.
So that took us down the path of definitely wanting to do the poo-flinging flying monkeys.
How could you not?
And they really do have the ability to fling poo. And their legend, who is the commander of your warband, he has to have a band. And you can actually have to get those out on the table, and it's almost like you can see this monkey with his cymbals banging maniacally and almost mechanically behind him to keep driving the rest of the monkeys forward. So that was a lot of fun.
Don't forget the red pencils.
Yeah. The other one was the Fae. The Fae are a very classic woodland fairy tale kind of army. They are not wood elves. They're made up of satyrs and sprites and fairies and brownies and all these things that kind of have grown over time to have an innocent connotation. Mm-hmm. But actually 100 years ago or 150 years ago, those weren't innocent creatures. But we've got all those in there, and there's nothing funnier than whimsically grim, I should say, than to watch a brownie mounted on a snail destroy one of your fearsome monsters in your own warband.
That's a killer
yeah. So the Fae really captured the spirit of, the old European spirit of woodland creatures and magic in the woods.
Nice.
The Liberi centaurs are a very different kind of race. They're the most noble of the races that we have in there. But what we wanted to make sure that there was a good, strong cavalry warband right out of the gate. And Liberi definitely fill that thing. The theming for them really came around the idea of if you were a centaur and you were trying to, what kind of food would you be after, what would you chase down, and that led us to thinking about, well, you'd be chasing down big packs of animals. And that kind of took us down this Native American kind of theming. I really like the way the Liberi have come together in the end.
Very cool.
With their magic and the way they approach it. And they're not warhorse centaurs, they're ponies. They're small, they're light, they're fast, but they pack a wallop when they charge. And the last warband was a desire to make sure we had something that was distinctly bad. And that's definitely the Creeps. And they're kind of a cross between a Jim Henson Muppet character and a demon, really. Because that's the whimsically grim part. They're whimsical to look at because they have this one just simple, big, giant eyeball. But they're very grim because their only real role in the game is to try to eat everything they come in contact with. And they're quite nasty, actually, especially the creepy mother. So that was the 4 warbands we settled out on. We just recently ran a poll on our website, and we hope to do more stuff like that to see what people would like us to do next. But we're going to hopefully let the community give us some guidance and let the community get their hands around Fanticide and see what they want to do with it, see where they want it to grow. And then we'll see what happens.
Very neat.
Excellent. Can you tell us
another
really
important part about the miniatures that we chose for Fanticide, it's really, really important, is that they're different. Like, we partnered with Eureka, and we have miniatures that are easy to paint, easy to build, and quick to get on your gaming table. And you really can put a war band together for Fanticide in a week's time. Like, you can be playing games with a painted war band for Fanticide in under a week.
Uh-huh.
And that was important to us, people who spend weeks and months trying to get a single army ready to play a game.
Nice. Well, that kind of leads us to the size of a game. So you're saying it's a week. So clearly this is a skirmish game. What's a typical model count? And
I just finished my creep. Well, I'm just in the process of finishing my second creep warband because I'm hopefully getting some gaming next week. And 40 models. It's usually somewhere between 30 to 40 models.
Okay.
And that's the average. You can play the game with a much smaller warband.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how big a game you can play at because, frankly, we've never really taken it over the standard warband size, but we're about to, so we'll see what happens there. And it's going to be interesting to get other people's feedback. What we really wanted to make sure happened is if Bill has Fanticide and he builds his warband, it's easy enough for him to drive across town and play that 1.5-hour game with his friend Dave and get that game to happen, very quickly and very easily. And there's not a lot of squabbling there about the size of the warband or how the game plays. So that was important.
Well, I'd say that
that's the size of it.
I was thinking that the Liberi warband is actually a lot smaller than that. So I guess it depends on how powerful the models are in the warband. Liberi are, I think, more like 15 to 20 models, really. And then, of course, the other extreme is the monkeys, where you have, yes, like you were saying, 40, 50 of them. But they're only small.
Nice.
Hey, and Can you give us just a little hint of the mechanics that you built that are informed by all this fluff in the background, and you didn't want to go, you go, I go, as you said. So where did you end up?
Alessio, I'm going to let you do that.
Shall I take that? Yeah. Okay. Basically, the core engine of the game is based on a deck of cards. So every unit in your army has a card that kind of represents that specific unit. So if you have like 4 units, you will have 4 cards. 5, 6 units, 6 cards, and you mix the cards for both your warband and the enemy's warband into a deck, an activation deck. There's a couple of special things you also add to the activation deck. One is an event, which is added every turn. You add a different event, random, into the deck, and also characters, heroes, if you want. So heroes, masters, and legends have a variable number of cards, depending on how strong their virtual command is. So, for example, a legend would have normally like 3 cards representing the legend. So in the deck, you have 1 card per unit plus a number of cards for your heroes. And I think, but then you shuffle it, and you basically start drawing from the top of the deck, and you work your way through the deck, and each time a card is drawn and activates, the card activates the unit that is corresponding to that card. The very clever mechanic that Ernie came up with when he kind of designed it, this is his core system really, is that actually when you activate a legend or a master, a hero, so to speak, he can activate himself, but he can also activate a warband he's with, or even activate a warband within a certain range of him. So that means that you can actually override some of the randomness of it. You can actually concentrate your energies on one side by basically placing your heroes in the right places, and that's really powerful. It's fun, it's mad, but it's also tactical. So we tried it, and we designed some. There was quite a few interesting, funny events. I have to say some of them are completely bonkers. In a good way. Some examples could be, there's an event that is a dropping storm.
Wow.
Because some huge beast or swarm of beasts flies overhead and let rip. And so,
Wow.
gets pummeled with huge poo.
Nice.
There's actually unicorns, flesh-eating, feral, really, really nasty, fluffy unicorns that eat everything on their path. They get activated by them. And what happens when a rainbow, a pretty shiny rainbow appears in the sky? What happens to the unicorns?
They frenzy, of course.
Of course.
and become that much worse as killers. So a rainbow with a unicorn now is quite nasty.
Nice.
So that's the core engine of the game. And like Ernie pointed out before, there is also the scenarios you're playing are based on the 7 Deadly Sins. And to prefer one sin, as in monkeys are greedy, creeps are obviously, they have gluttony as their sin, so they want to eat stuff. And the satyrs have lust. It was kind of funny to find rules to represent lust on a battlefield as well. It was something to do with charging enemies in the rear, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Yeah.
The laughter part is a very key part of Fanticide. One of the things we wanted about Fanticide was we wanted it to be a challenging game, but we wanted it to be a little bit lighter, a little bit airier, a little bit more fun. If you really want to get down to it and just play a very hardcore tactical game, it's easy enough to adjust by taking some of the event cards out and the rest. But we wanted to make sure that it had enough scope for some laughs, because when we play games, we really like to have a laugh or two.
Nice.
And Fanticide was the perfect game for that. So dropping scorns, flying unicorns, giant Muppet-like creatures with giant eyeballs, all of that's in there.
Not to
But
mention,
you also have lots and lots of grim, hardcore fighting. When you're trying to decide what to do with your legend or your hero is not just about charging him into combat with his relic weapon, like an M16 or a hand grenade. It's really about trying to make the most out of his command cards to make your turn work in your favor. And that gives it does give it a lot of flexibility. And the feedback from all the people that have been playing it so far is that flexibility makes them smile, and they're enjoying it. And that's what we wanted. We wanted a game that people could really enjoy.
Well,
not take it too seriously, I hope. Just enjoy it.
Oh, well, sounds good. Sounds like you're well on your way.
It does. It sounds very unique, fun, and interesting, and definitely something I don't think is out there right now.
No, it sounds unique.
That's why I'm so appreciative of you guys giving us some time tonight, because we are trying to do something very different. And a lot of people have said, well, what's Fanticide like, when they want us to compare it to another game? Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, we've kind of struggled with that because we don't have a direct comparison. And that's what we're trying to do. We really want to do stuff that's different.
Well, I know what Fanticide is like. Fanticide is like Alice in Wonderland on acid.
There you go. Nice. Well, it sounds fantastic. Now, what drew you guys to Kickstarter here? Why did you choose that route to go to try to get this game to market?
That's a very good question. And the answer to that is because everybody else was doing it.
Fair enough.
We didn't really... We put it on Kickstarter because we're very young. When you have a business that's only a couple months old and nobody knows who Alien Dungeon is and nobody has any clue at all, there's a lot of noise out there. There are a lot of great games being produced. There's a lot of stuff, and we wanted to make sure that we were making ourselves as loud as we could be. And it seemed like being on Kickstarter is one way to shout out that Fanticide was coming with a louder voice. So that's, to be honest, what spurred me on to do it. I was hesitant to do it for quite a few reasons. And we almost did it at the last minute.
Wow.
So we did. We did well over $17,000, which for a company our size and what we're trying to accomplish was fantastic. I thought it was a great result for us.
Yeah.
Some of the feedback I've heard from others is, "Whoa, you didn't do $500,000." Yeah. Thank God.
Right.
$500,000 on a project like Fanticide would have kept us doing nothing but Fanticide models for the next 12 months, and we don't really want to do that.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good rate. I see you got 139 backers, $17,000. That's not a bad. You got 139 orders to fill, and then you're good to go. That's not too bad.
We do, and what's really been nice about the customers that have pledged to Fanticide so far is that all of them are ticking things up. As the more information about the game gets to them, they've just been increasing even after the pledge has been over. So we're thrilled. We're really happy about it.
That's excellent, and it's also probably a really great a really great way to succeed with the Kickstarter, because you almost doubled what your goal was. And yet, at the same time, you're not so overwhelmed with what happened that you're having to push back your delivery date. I mean, I see on your website that the delivery dates are all right on target, and like you said, it's gonna give you a really nice foundation to launch your next, whether it's more of Fanticide or your next project. It sounds like you got a bunch of those in the offing. What in particular did the Kickstarter tally allow you to do that almost getting that double your goal? Did that allow you to what did it allow you to do?
It pushed me certainly to know that there was enough interest and enough energy behind Fanticide out of the gate to do the spell dominance. In each one of the spell groupings, you can take the time to cast for spell dominant, which embodies a creature on the battlefield that is sustainable and can play out most of the game unless something interferes with that process. And we didn't have any models for that going into Kickstarter. We just had the concept. And what Kickstarter really did was fuel us with enough energy to say, ooh, we got to do those. And that's one thing that definitely came out of it. We definitely got the spell dominance into the mix.
Excellent.
And it pushed on me a little bit to talk about the team and myself. Gosh, now once I've got my core warband that I want, there's some other things I can add to it tactically, and that also pushed us into 4 more units. So at the end of the day, there are 4 new units coming, 1 for each warband, and the 4 spell dominants. So I would say that was the biggest outcome creatively. from the response we got on Kickstarter.
Excellent. Now, looking at each of the armies, it looks like everybody's got stickers, which are guys with spears. Everybody has slashers with swords, shootists with bows. Crushers would be maybe your heavies.
Yes.
And then a legend. So what is it, a new category that everybody's going to get filled in, or like what
Bands didn't start with a full menu. Levery, for example, didn't have a monster choice.
Aha.
But now they're going to have the Thunderbird, which is a giant, nasty, fire-breathing bird.
Sounds good.
The creeps didn't have any missile troops. Well, now they're going to have missile troops. They're going to throw little creeps at you. So it was those kinds of things. It just fleshed out some of the holes, if you will, that were in some of the armies.
Yep. Excellent. So it sounds like that was a big success, which is awesome. And so now we want to talk a little bit about the marketing the game and where it might be going in the future. However, to be fair, it is 2:00 in the morning for Alicio right now over in England. And so we're going to say goodbye to Alicio right now. Alicio, thank you very much for taking this time, especially this late at night, to talk to us and fill us in on your part of Fanticide.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And I did have one question for you before you go.
Yeah.
I'm still extremely intrigued with River Horse as the A-team analogy. And I just want to know who plays the role of B.A. Baracus on your team.
Well, there's one thing of Baracus that I certainly could say I understand very well, and it works very well for me, is love for airplanes.
Okay, so
I just want to add, this is an A-team of all Murdochs. Like, this is just Murdoch. All the teams.
Well, it sounds like exactly the kind of game that would turn out with From All Murdoch. So I'll give you that one. I'll buy that one. And Alicio, that was very gentlemanly of you to take the BA bullet for the team on that one. So thank you very much, Alicio, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
I will certainly do. Thank you, guys.
Good night, Alicio.
Good night.
Bye-bye. All right. So, let's talk about marketing a little bit. You've got a brand new game. Like you said, you used Kickstarter to raise your voice amongst the crowd that we've got every year. And what can you tell us a little bit about the basic approach that you decided to take with marketing this new game and anything you might have learned along the way?
I'll start that, and then I'll get to the Warhost part, and I'd like to bring Drew into that because he's actually managing the Warhost program for us.
Excellent.
When I talk about marketing for Fanticide, I'm actually talking about marketing, to be honest with you, as a whole for our new company.
Uh-huh.
And there are three things that are very important to us going forward. The first is we want to make sure that we have really good customer service, and that extends on all kinds of fronts for us. Our other company, its sister company, Architects of War, is well known for its customer service, and we certainly want to maintain that.
Uh-huh.
The second piece is about community. And a lot of people use that word community, but community for us is an inclusive thing because it's not just about the hobbyist. It's also about trade accounts and retailers. They're having a tough time of it out there. They have been for several years. And we want to include them as much as we possibly can in everything that we're doing.
Mm.
And we want the community to be participatory in whatever we're trying to do. So that really says that our marketing program is mostly about community outreach. And the one thing that we're trying to do really hard on community outreach is something kind of new, which other companies have had representatives and they've had tournament runners and all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to take that a little bit further, and that's called the Warhost program. And Drew, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So the Warhost program kind of came out from the fact this is a new company and it's a new game. And the one thing in our experience that was always the biggest hurdle to overcome in any game, even when you were talking about the really big game companies that have really well-known brands, was having that word of mouth spread about the game and people talking about the game. And how do you create that? What's the journey you go on to create word of mouth, and how do you create buzz? And there's lots of tools today in the modern world with social media to help you along that. We went back to some really, really basics of, well, why don't we just pay people money? Like, why don't we give them cash to do that for us? Because you have really, really passionate individuals. People are really, really excited about miniature games, and they'll get really excited about Fanticide and want to share that with other people. Well, we'll give them a commission for the Fanticide games that they sell through that process. And it kind of morphed into, imagine a miniature game being played in a very similar setting as a Tupperware party. So you have a war host member holding a war party, and at that war party he throws a game and shows people how to play Fanticide and what Fanticide's all about, and shows off the units and the different game mechanics. And at the end of that, just like at a fun Tupperware party that you may or may not have gone to in your life, you get a chance to buy the products and try them out and go from there. And that'll help us with that word of mouth and spreading the word of mouth from people who are really passionate about the game.
Very nice.
And that's how the war started.
That sounds
it's
neat.
It's really
so,
the concept that, for me, every time I've had to move in my life from Los Angeles to New Jersey, from New Jersey to Baltimore or whatever, I always have to find another group of miniature gamers to get together to play miniature games with. I know there are a lot of guys out there that are like that are kind of champions of miniature gaming, and they have to let the word out, and they have to get people over, and they have to host a game and get people to play. And I thought, well, why not help those guys out with that process? And that's definitely what the War Host program is really all about. It's about being a host.
That sounds very intriguing.
There was another small victory for me, too, is that these guys, the guys that are in the War Host now, there's quite a few people who have already signed up for this program, and people that I've known and been friends with and have been involved with in other businesses that are part of those programs. So the old Outrider program with Games Workshop, Press Gamers, there's lots of these programs out there. These guys really, really get passionate, and the men and women that do those programs love what they do. And the thing that I always got a little irate with personally was I feel the companies that they work for or represent take a little bit of advantage of that. And I'm really, really proud that Alien Dungeon is doing everything they can not to do that. And one of those ways is we're just going to pay you money. Like, we're going to make that really simple and just give you cash. And if you want to buy miniatures with that, great. If you want to pay your rent with that, great. It's your decision what to do with it, and it's cash instead of the typical, hey, thanks for working 3 days at this convention for us. Here's a bag of miniatures.
That sounds good. Now, so you're having a good response to that?
Yeah, it's starting, and it'll be a slow journey. Lots of people don't have Fanticide in their hands yet, so it's hard to get people really excited about a game they haven't touched and felt. But we have sent out some packages, and the people that have got it it's starting that journey. They're really, really excited. There's been blog posts and people furiously doing minis, and I've got a guy right now in a game store in Hawaii demonstrating Fanticide.
Oh, cool!
Through the War Host program.
Excellent. So so what is so right now is if the status of the game is that there's a few, you've managed to get models out to a few of these War Host guys, and so the word is starting to spread, and then according to the website, you're looking to start shipping stuff out first or second week of October. So this is really timely. It's going to start hitting very soon now.
Correct.
Excellent. And
absolutely, we'll be out in the market with, and we've decided to do all 4 war bands at once too.
That's nice.
So it's not, it's all there. It'll all be out in the marketplace by the end of October. You'll be able to get everything that's in the book.
Excellent.
And after that, all the support for it will be free. So every time we do a new unit, we're not going to do more Army books or codexes. We're just going to produce that material for free as a download on the website.
Excellent. So, well, that kind of segues into my next question, which is where do you see it going from here? I mean, well, it's always kind of hard. You're right at launch. You've probably got a really nice feeling of accomplishment right now. But where do you go next?
Where we go next is we see what happens when it hits the community, when people start playing it. We've got a forum up and running on our website now. We're hardly known. Nobody knows we exist yet.
Right.
And it's getting people's attention and getting people to start playing Fanticide. And then the most important part is encouraging them to talk about it and hopefully talk about it to us. So we hear what they say about it, what they like, what they don't like. And that will be a big part of the process of where Fanticide goes. It's going to be about reacting to how the marketplace reacts. And we're definitely interested in doing some important but fun tournament-style play. So we're going to be doing some Fanticide tournaments, and that's where we are right now. It's a small game. It's a small project. It's the first one out of the gate for us, and we'll see what kind of growth Fanticide has of its own.
Nice.
I think people are going to like it. It's a lot of fun to play.
Excellent. And you promised us some juicy tidbits, and we're at the juicy tidbits portion of the interview.
Feet to the fire time, Ernie.
We're working on another project.
Ooh.
In fact, Fanticide is the first of 4 games we're working on right now.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
The next game that you'll see that comes from Fanticide, or from Alien Dungeon, I'm sorry. The next game you'll see coming from Alien Dungeon is a science fiction game.
Ooh.
And it involves steam-powered tanks, gas weapons, land ironclads, and some really interesting new menaces and old menaces at the same time. It's being done by myself and Rick, and Alessio is helping us a lot on that. So Rick Priestley and I and Alessio are doing that game. It will involve some plastic miniatures as well as resonant metal.
Nice. Oh, nice.
And we will be launching that after the first of the year. And we're going to put the first preview up because of this podcast. I'm going to put some previews up of some of the vehicles this week on our website.
Oh, very good.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we'll start talking about that. And we've got a couple other interesting games in the works as well. And we're working on one project that's fairly long-term. We don't think we're going to even be in the market for a couple of years on it because we have a lot of development work to do. And the exciting part about some of these newer projects is that I've managed to tap into some of the talent that I used to work with in the toy industry. These are vehicle designers, creature designers, figure designers, all the rest, that have never done anything in the miniatures world before. And most of them are really bored working on Fisher-Price playsets. And they're ready to put some guns and big teeth on stuff, and they're all very excited. And we're doing some really fun work. So
that sounds exciting.
Exciting journey.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Ernie, and it was really great to talk to you again and get an idea of where Fanticide is coming from and where it's going.
Thank you very much for having us on. I appreciate it.
No problem. And Russ, are we back?
We are. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. And so, so thank you very much, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hello everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. This week's shout out, Nothing Personal, a game of bribery and blackmail by Tom Vassell and Steve Avery, coming soon to Kickstarter, powered by Game Salute. You might be able to tell by my voice that I have been talking very loudly and am very hoarse from a weekend of fun and games and comics and craziness. I went to New York Comic Con. I have been home for all of about 12 hours. So if you could see me, I'm exactly as bleary-eyed and exhausted as my voice sounds. This is not con crud. This is con fun you're hearing in my voice. It was a wonderful convention. This is the third time that I've been to New York Comic Con. It is one of my favorites. I like New York Comic Con because it's got all the coolness of San Diego without being quite so far away, since it's only about 4 hours to drive down there. And it has a lot of people that I know and a lot of places that I like. I think I'm kind of an East Coast girl. So for me, New York Comic Con is better than San Diego Comic Con. Saw some really cool stuff. And once again, cosplayers that were unbelievable. There were two that stuck in my head that were so funny. I actually had that laugh out loud moment where I thought I have to go find them. I have to chase after this person and make them stop because I must have their picture. One was a guy who had a cowboy hat on and jeans and a t-shirt, and he had like a wanted poster that he cut out to fit out around his face, and it was a wanted poster for Carl Grimes from The Walking Dead saying, "Missing child, Carl, please contact Lori Grimes if found." I thought it was awesome because if you watch The Walking Dead, you know that Carl is never wherever the heck it is that he's supposed to be. The other one that I just absolutely loved was a guy cosplaying as Thor. Not Thor with his brawny chest plate and his hammer and looking all studly, but Thor from the movie when he's in like jeans and a flannel t-shirt. I had that Thor pretended that he was overcome by Comic-Con, and his buddies had him lay down on the ground outside and threw all the candy wrappers and random stuff that they had in their backpack on top of him, laid the hammer next to him, and made it like he was passed out in a drunken stupor, which was the most creative Thor costume that I have ever seen. There were also costumes from all sorts of anime characters, tons of Star Wars, Deadpool in every permutation and combination that you could think of, because apparently you just can't be Deadpool. You have to be zombie Deadpool or Batman Deadpool or Stormtrooper Deadpool or Deadpool wearing a tutu, which is, I guess it's just a Deadpool cosplay thing. There were also some great previews. For those of you who are Lego fans, there are so many cool Lego sets coming out over the next couple of months. They have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Legos. They've got little minifigs of the main guys, and they've got other minifigs of some of the villains, and it's all based on the new Nickelodeon series that's out there. And they even have a pizza truck, like a little pizza truck with pizza pieces that you can drive around. It was awesome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Legos, and they were there. There was even a hallway that was sponsored by them. So you went through the hallway and it looked like you were walking through the sewers with all these green lights and smoke and stuff that looked like slime hanging down, and staged little bits of, radioactive goo and half-empty pizza boxes. It was really pretty fun. And there were also some unbelievable Hobbit stuff. They had all the Hobbit sets in a case. They had this glass case that was so secure that probably, Thor's hammer couldn't get through it. But it was covered with fingerprints. You just had to vision all these nerds with their faces pressed against the glass. They had great scenes, and it sort of gave away some stuff that you can expect to see in the style of how some things will look when the movie comes out later this December. And one of the things that I thought was really cool is if you like snazzy sneakers, if you like Vans, and they're hugely popular sneakers, they're coming out with Vans that are Thor and Spider-Man, and they have all these characters on it, and they're even for little kids. So if you have a little kid, you can have matching sneakers with your little kid, so you can be little nerdy superhero fans together. So it was a wonderfully fun and fantastic convention. Once again, so crowded at points on Saturday that they had to hold people from coming in, wait for things to sort of ease up and for the crowd to disperse a little bit, and then open the doors again to let people inside. As always, just a great time. We had a great bunch of people. It was wonderful to see the vendors and wonderful to see my fellow nerds. I actually talked to a couple of listeners, a couple of Twitter people that I bumped into while I was there. It was great to see you guys, and I can't wait for the next one.
And it's time to talk about one of my favorite magazines to page through. Always excited to see it come to my doorstep, and that is War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy magazine. What I like about this game, as a miniature gamer, there's certain miniature games that are my go-to games, but what's cool about War Games, Soldiers, and Strategy magazine is I get to see these other games that are just all kinds of variety. I had no idea that people had miniatures about, spies, James Bond and Oddjob and all those crazy people. They're all in this issue. Issue 62 has got a great theme on secret agents. And they got all kinds of great real ones, fantasy ones, all kinds of great stuff in there. Great pictures, great layouts, great dioramas. The dioramas and the photography in this magazine are just top notch.
Yeah,
really.
Another cool thing that I think is neat from the game, the War Game Soldier and Strategy magazine, is that sometimes they've actually got games inside the magazine.
Ooh, yes.
And this issue actually has a game called Buster Crab's Last Dive, which is based on an actual spy underwater mission that took place during the Cold War, and the end is a mystery. So you're playing the part of Buster Crab, this British diver, and it's a really neat interactive card game. You can play solo, you can play with miniatures, and it was just like a really neat quick game that was thrown in there with all the other cool stuff that they've got in this issue.
And I absolutely love the little Zodiac model there. It looks like a little speed air-filled Zodiac boat filled with little like Navy SEAL type guys.
Oh yeah,
it looks so awesome. What a great model. Just a great magazine. If you're looking for a magazine, it's really, the kind of magazine you might leave on your coffee table, the kind of magazine that really is professional grade, top notch, up there with any other magazine you might own, that about your favorite hobby. War Game Soldier Strategy is definitely worth checking out. Head on over. It's available in Barnes & Noble, anywhere great magazines are sold. You can also subscribe to it. If you head over to WSSmagazine.com, you can order your subscriptions or back issues there, and also be sure to put in the code D6G and get 15% off whatever you order.
Absolutely, and all of the our back issues from issue 54 and back have actually been lowered. Their prices are €3.49 right now.
A bargain.
Permanently, so that's a bargain, and a bargain on top of a bargain, that's a super bargain.
I'm Dan, your friendly professional game guide. Welcome back to When You Wish Upon a Game, where we discuss ways we can make the game industry better. Today's topic comes from listener Van Norton. I've noticed that game companies make the same mistakes over and over again. It's like that movie Groundhog's Day, but the gamer version. Thanks for writing in, Van. In the case of game publishers, most companies are small, with resources stretched very thin. When they make a mistake, they may not have the resources available to fix things right away. Whether it's a mistake in production, rules editing, sales strategies, or event support, most companies are just learning as they go. Van points out that, fundamentally, most creative people are not good with business, and to start a game company takes a certain amount of arrogance that you can succeed where others have failed. Add to that the fact that there's been little success in organizing the industry. It remains a collection of cottage startups and a handful of big players. It's true that especially as companies grow, it's a challenge to make sure folks are focused on the areas of the business that they do best. It's easy to get distracted by the hustle and bustle of day-to-day operations. So how can we avoid making the same mistakes over and over again? Listen, watch, and learn. Listen to others who have had the same experience or attempted to do the same thing you are. If you're thinking about changing your packaging, for instance, find an example that's as close to your goal as possible. Look at what works and improve on what doesn't. Schedule time each week to listen to podcasts, read into the histories and experiences of other game publishing companies, and generally keep up to date with the industry. You'll be surprised how often you'll find inspiration to solve a problem that you've been dealing with from the examples of someone else. It's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's better to learn from the mistakes of others. That's how the little guys become the big guys. Fewer mistakes than you have successes. That's what I see when I wish upon a game. How about you? What mistakes do you see over and over again in the games industry? What blunders make no sense to you and seem utterly obvious? Email me at wish@gamesalute.com. Thanks for listening and have fun playing.
And of course, we would not be doing our jobs if we did not mention to you at this point Game Salute, which serves so many different functions throughout the gaming community now. It's buying, it's selling, it's making games, it's getting the word out there. It's an intermediary between the community and gaming. It's a news aggregate website.
Yeah, but more importantly is helping. One of the biggest things they do is their Springboard system allows Game Salute to help out new developers and new game designers to get their stuff out there effectively on Kickstarter and to market. And one of the big ones they're working with right now is Story Realms. And Story Realms is doing fantastic on Kickstarter right now. They still got, It's actually closing down while we're playing this right now. It's about to end. It looks like they're totally funded. So if you hear this and have a chance, jump in there and back it or check it out. Definitely go check out Story Realms.
25 hours to go.
Yeah,
man.
it's going to be gone soon, but they made over $64,000. Their goal was $20,000. They did great. This looks like a great system, a great little RPG for the whole family. It takes you basically into storybook land where you're going to have all the different characters from your favorite Grimm's fairy tale and other fairy tales in there. Great looking components. I mean, look at all the stretch goals they made. All kinds of great looking stuff going here. All the art. Oh, the art direction's awesome. Great looking game. So check out Story Realms. And even if the Kickstarter closes, keep an eye on it and watch for it because it'll be on your local store soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com.
Welcome back. Now we're pretty excited to talk about what really was one of the Kickstarter darlings of earlier this year and turned out to actually get shipped and people got it and whatnot. And that is...
Yay, Kickstarter!
That is Zombicide, right? Zombicide. Now, we've had this game a little while. I bought it. I backed the Kickstarter project, and I got my copy, and I've been playing it now since they shipped it just before a few weeks. I got the week before Gen Con. That's what it was. Week before Gen Con. Drew, have you seen the game yet, or have you heard about it?
I've seen it. I haven't had a chance to play. And I can't wait to get a copy myself now that I've seen it.
And Craig has dabbled, so we're going to try going here and see what we can do about it. We'll do one of our patented D6G reviews here and see what we get. So here we go. So first we got the overview. It was published obviously in 2012 by Cool Mini or Not and Guillotine Games. So Guillotine Games are basically the design house. Cool Mini or Not. There you go. Making sure it happens. You got to have the kaplop of the head in the bucket though. Kaplop. It handles 1 to 6 players. So sometimes we get questions about good solo games. Zombicide is an excellent solo game. Also, for those asking about 2-player variants, Zombicide also plays great 2 players. And what's really unique about Zombicide, I think, it is a fantastic, and I might argue, best played with 3 players. Each player playing 2 survivors is my favorite way to play the game. It's just the right amount. It's not overwhelming with 6, which is great because there's not a lot of really fun 3-player games out there. 3 players is kind of a hard number to satisfy, so I like that about the game as well. Play time is about 30 minutes to 3 hours, depending on the scenario you choose. So there are bigger and smaller scenarios.
There's a wide array of missions, too, which is cool.
There are, yeah. So like Craig and I did the sort of intro tutorial mission, and we were done like less than a half an hour, I think.
Yeah.
But if you play one of the larger maps, you can play a long time. And there's a campaign out now, too, which we'll talk about later, that can go for as long as pretty much you want to. The MSRP is $89.99, so not a cheap game. But we'll get into more what comes in the box, and we'll talk about value in a couple minutes here. And as I said, it came out on Kickstarter. It is shipping from Cool Mini or Not. Also, it is available on Amazon, and I'm sure your local gaming store will have it very soon, maybe by the time you hear this. So it is pretty much hitting shelves as we speak. So let's talk about what comes in the box. Here we go. So let's see. There is the full-color 26-page rules booklet. It's very nice. It's got a nice quick reference on the back. No, I don't think there's a table of contents or index, but it's not that long. And because most of the book, 26 pages, 10 of the pages of those are missions. So you're really dealing with this 16 pages of actual rules. Very large print, lots of pictures, so it's not a rules-heavy book. And the back page has got really all you need to know. Once you read through the book once, everything on the back is what you need. There are a lot of models in this box. And what's great about when you first open it up, Craig, you didn't see it because you saw my version with all the battle foam in there.
Right, yeah.
It comes with these really cool plastic trays that if each zombie individually held in their own little, and they separate out, so you can actually put them back in there again and snap it back closed again. So you can actually retray the miniatures. And it comes with these 2 big trays full of 71 miniatures. And Craig, how would you describe the quality of these miniatures?
They are awesome. I was very, very impressed when I looked at them again last night. The detail is right up there with anything you're going to see in any other miniature game or board game. That you can see the zipper on the hoodie from the runner zombies. You got little pockets. You got stuff falling out of the pockets. You got the survivors all have cool weapons. It's really, really, absolutely 100% top notch components in general and minis in particular.
Right. And I think
faces are really well sculpted on this.
Oh, they are.
Sculpting is fantastic, and that's where the Cool Mini or Not part's coming in here. Those 71 miniatures are broken down into 6 survivors. The survivors are all different colored plastic. So you're going to get your, which is nice because then you can quickly, they're color-coded to match their player mats. So you can easily tell I'm playing Wanda. Oh, but the background of the mat is blue, and Wanda's the blue model. So you don't have to paint them to be able to, it's got that nice, easy board game playing, but the models scream to be painted, particularly the zombies, which with some primer and some dry brushing, they would look pretty darn good. You get 40 walkers, 16 runners, so basically there's 4 types of zombies. You got your walkers, you have 40 of those, 16 runners, 8 fatties, which are the big fat dudes, and then you get 1 giant abomination. If you've ever played the video game Left 4 Dead, these are pretty much right out of that game. This game is basically Left 4 Dead, the board game, essentially, in terms of the zombie varieties and all the crazy things that can happen. There are also 110 mini cards. These are small, we call them the Corey cards from Fantasy Flight, right? Those little tiny cards. You get 110 of those. 42 of those are zombie cards. 62 of those are equipment cards. And you got the 6 wound cards for marking who gets hurt. You get 9 gaming tiles. These are pretty cool. This is actually what becomes the board. So the board is modular. You get these big square tiles with great artwork. What did you think of the tiles, Craig?
Actually, I commented to you last night. The tiles, the graphic design on this game is awesome. The way the different areas of each tile is laid out is awesome. But the detail that went into each little tile, and you can look at a tile, and each tile tells a story, and it's crazy. And they're really grody, gross stories. Yes, they are. There's a bathroom that has a bathtub in it, and just from the blood spatter, you can tell someone got mowed down on in the bathtub and then dragged out and then flopped all over the bathroom and then dragged out of the bathroom.
Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, it's crazy. You can it's just awesome. There's every tile has scenes like that. Just like fantastic. Really cool, graphic, gross scenes.
It is awesome, and what's really cool too, definitely check out the conference room when you get a chance. But what's also awesome is that there's on the tiles all interlock. And there are buildings, the top's cut off so you can see inside, cutaway inside views of the buildings. And also there's these roads. And the street paint on the roads, the numbers you'd see on a road are actually the tile numbers, but they look like street paint, so it doesn't take away from the vision. And then also the zones outside are delineated by crosswalks in the roads. So there's no grid or anything like that. It's just all done by graphic design, but also looks like decoration. It's really, really cleverly done. So you get 9 of these giant tiles. And they're double-sided, too, so lots of configuration options, and all the missions take you through all these different ways you can play the game with them. Some missions have less tiles, some missions have more, so you go from a mission with 2 tiles to missions with all 9 in play. You get 6 dice. They're normal 6-sided dice. You also get 6 survivor identity cards. These are actually the player mats, and we'll talk more about those in a second. You also get a bunch of advancement counters. You get these are things that these little clips that go on the top of the survivor cards that track the danger track. More about that in a little bit. You're going to get 24 advancement. Oh, we talked about those already. You're going to get 4 cars. So there's also cars in this game. So there's streets, there's buildings. There's actually car tokens that move around on the board. Your survivors can get inside of them, and you can drive around and run over zombies. So that's all win. So when I saw there were cars, there are actually 2 different kinds of cars. There's police cars and a pimp mobile because, you got to have pimps. So basically that's in there too. You get a bunch of noise tokens. Big mechanic of the game is noise. How much noise you make is going to dictate where the zombies go because this is a true co-op game, meaning that it's you against the board, and where the most noise is where the zombies are going to end up. So you can use that to your advantage, or if you get too excited with your gun, all of a sudden you're going to be swamping in zombies.
Yeah.
You get 10 objective tokens. You get 12 door tokens, which interesting, too, is these tiles I described as cutaways of buildings. There's no doors in because you put these tokens on top of the walls to dictate where the doors are, which allows you to the scenarios to change the design of where the entry points and exit points are, which is pretty neat. There's also 6 zombie spawn tokens, which tell you where the zombies show up from. And there's a first player token, and there's an exit point token. In some scenarios, the survivor's got to get to a certain spot on the table. So that's everything you get in the box for $89.99. What do you guys think about quality? Drew, I know you looked at it online. Craig, you've seen this stuff in person. Is $89 or $90 essentially, is that a good deal, bad deal, what?
I think it's a great deal. If you look at it just like if you need a bunch of zombies, this is where to go. If you look at it, that's only a little more than $1 a zombie, which is crazy good, especially for this quality. But the game is great. Everything is the linen stock. Almost everything is the linen stock. It's a really nice thick card, really cool graphic design, both from a playability perspective and just from an artistic perspective. It really doesn't miss a trick. Every little fiddly little bit that I didn't really like at Adepticon has been completely fixed with really cool components. So I would say that $89.99 is really an excellent price point for this game.
Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd spend $89 in a heartbeat. I think it's great quality, and again, it's the miniatures. you can't buy that number of miniatures for that price anywhere else. Like if you were going to just play Zombicide with your own miniatures, where are you going to buy them that cheap?
No, you're right. Or just to have them. And the thing is, I feel like I got a steal because I ended up, and here's a little Kickstarter success story. So it was on Kickstarter. I backed it at the abomination level, quote unquote. So I backed it at the $100 price point. At $100, you got everything I just described, plus you got an additional tray of zombies, which gave you another third more zombies. So instead of 40 walkers, I got 60 walkers. Instead of 16 runners, I got 32. I got 16 fatties instead of 8, and I got 2 abominations. Plus I got 3 bonus survivors. So I got 9 survivors total. So I basically got that many more models for 10 more bucks. Plus special dice that glow in the dark, plus all this other bonus stuff. So if you know going in, I think it's a pretty interesting story about Kickstarter. If you know what you're getting, and you know who's involved, and you know it's going to be a quality product, and if you're lucky enough, like Craig and I, to be able to demo and kind of know where you're going with this, you can really get a pretty good deal if you get in on the ground floor. But even all that said, even at $90, I think Craig's exactly right. What you're getting here is a great deal for what's in the box.
Well, and Cool Mini or not, and the people they work with definitely are now starting to build a reputation of delivering on their Kickstarters too.
They are.
Because there are quite a few Kickstarters that I've backed that I'm still waiting to see something eventually.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but these guys seem to really deliver on what they've promised in a timely fashion.
Yeah, I was excited about that. We'll see what happens with Sedition Wars. I backed that also. But this one, I think it ended in May, and I got it before August. So that was the time they said, before fall. So they delivered. So let's talk about setup here. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go through that book I described. There's 10 different scenarios in there. The very first time you play, you're going to want to try that training scenario. It's very, very quick, like 15, 20 minutes. Don't judge the game experience by that scenario. That's just to get the mechanics down. It's crazy. When I showed my friend Chris this game, I played at his house. We played the demo scenario. I said, what do you think? He goes, it's neat. So let's try a full scenario. 15 minutes into the full scenario goes, oh my God, this is awesome. Because the cinematic experience is what really kicks in when you start getting, because you won't get the number of zombies on the board. Because literally, I mentioned I have 100 odd zombies when I have the abomination level. You will get that many on the board. You'll have that feeling of like I'm in a zombie movie and there's literally 100 plastic zombies all around my dudes, and you just, as a miniature game, you're imagining it all in real life. You're like, oh my God, I'm so dead. It's pretty awesome. So you pick your scenario. Your scenario is going to have a nice, pretty picture in there of the tile layout. So you're going to lay your tiles out to match the scenario. You're going to place the doors. As I mentioned, the doors move around. So you're going to place where the doors go on the tiles. You're going to place the spawn zones. The spawn zones, these big red tokens that clearly are where the zombies come from. You put those on the edge of usually it's street entrances where they come in. And usually in most of the main scenarios, there's more than one. So you might have 2, 3, or more spawn zones where zombies come in. You're also going to have objective markers, these little X's. And in most scenarios, you got to get there and do something on the objective. Usually pick them up or something. So that's all laid out. Now you're going to set up the equipment deck. Now, really, really important. I missed this the first few times I played the game, and it definitely confused me. You got to take out the Molotov cocktail cards. There's also one card in there called the Evil Twins, which is like a super special twin pair of pistols. And there's also a card in there called Maz Shotgun, which is a super special shotgun with a bayonet knife on the front of it. That all comes out of the deck because those are special things you find in certain scenarios. So make sure you take them out of the deck. Otherwise, it will confuse you when they come in and you'll change game balance. Also, from the deck, you want to take out one axe, one crowbar, and one pistol, and enough frying pans so that all those cards add up to the number of players in the game. So if you have 6 players, you're going to want an axe, a crowbar, and a pistol, and you're also going to want 3 frying pans. And when I say players, I mean survivors, not actual players. So if Craig and I are each playing 2 guys, we're going to want the extra crowbar and the pistol plus 1 extra frying pan to shuffle up amongst our people. What you're going to do now is you're going to shuffle up the zombie deck, put that aside. You're going to shuffle up the equipment deck, put that aside. Now you're going to pick your survivors. So in a 1-player game, you control by yourself 4 survivors. In a 2-player game, each player controls 3 survivors. Craig and I did that wrong last night in our demo. So that means that you're going to have the maximum number of survivors in the game in a 2-player game. You're just each controlling 3. In a 3-player game, which is my favorite way to play, each player controls 2 survivors, and then in 4 to 6 players, each player controls 1 survivor, depending on how many players there are. Okay, so that's just in the book. You pick how many survivors you're going to have. And when you pick your survivor, you're going to get this player mat. Now, Craig, can you describe the player mat?
The player mat is very cool, very simple. It has a picture of the model on it, like a very cool artsy picture of the model on it, so just to remind you of who you're looking at. And then it has places for your 2 ready weapons, so the 2 things that you've got in your hands. And then it's got 3 things that you have in reserve, sort of like in the backfield, so to speak, of the card. So you can manage your cards that way, which is very quick and easy. And then at the top, it has a really cool sort of flow chart that tracks how many zombies you've killed. And over the course of the game, as you kill more zombies, you basically level up, and it shows you what bonuses you start with, and then what bonuses you get when you reach each threshold, and then later on in the in the advancement, you actually get to start choosing amongst several different ones, and so it really tracks very well what you've got and where you are in the game advancement, how many zombies you've killed. The only thing I would say is you've got to remember that there are cards on your control panel, so you can't lift it up to slide your kill thing, which I kept doing and dumping my cards on the floor.
Yeah,
that's
so
mostly me.
When we played the demo at Adepticon, so there's this little danger track, as Craig described it, and the danger track goes from 0, I think, to 40. And there's a bunch of little tiny zones in there, almost like a ruler with the number 0 through 40 on it. And there's also color-coded zones. So, like, the first section of the track is like light blue, and then it goes to yellow, then it goes to orange, and then it goes to red at the very end. And when you shift from these color zones, you're changing the level of danger. And when your your survivor changes from level of danger, he or she's going to get a new ability, but also it's going to make the zombies nastier. More about that in a bit. And to track this, at Adepticon, they had this little token you put on top, which you're always knocking around and falling over place. They've added this cool clip thing that slides onto the card, which is much easier. This little arrow that points down. Looks really, really slick. The only downside, as Craig mentioned, is it's a little hard to slide, so you just make sure you hold your thing carefully when you slide it.
Yeah.
So that's your player map. And then also, now you're going to shuffle up. Remember I said you took aside an axe, a crowbar, and a pistol, and some frying pans? You're going to shuffle those up and deal them to each survivor. So one survivor is going to start with a frying pan, someone's going to get an axe, someone's going to get a crowbar, someone's going to get a pistol, everybody else is going to get frying pans. Frying pans are probably the worst weapon in the game, but it's better than nothing. So there you go. And you put all your plastic hero markers, the guys you start with, on the starting point on the map as indicated by the scenario, and you're ready to begin. All right? So, how does a turn work? How are we doing, Drew? Making sense so far?
Yeah, so far I'm following along well.
All right. So in the turn, the heroes go first. Now, first thing I do is to figure out which player has initiative. Now, I'm going to try to be careful here to distinguish the term player from the survivor, who's actually the character in the game. So Craig and I are players, but so let's say Drew, Craig, and I are playing. Each of us are controlling 2 survivors. So we got to figure out which of us, the players, Craig, Drew, or I, are going to have initiative. So we're going to roll some dice to figure out who the high rolls initiative. Let's say Craig wins initiative. So Craig gets the initiative token, and so he's player 1. Craig now is going to activate all of his heroes in any order he chooses, and all of his survivors. So he's going to activate both his survivors. Then Drew's going to get to go. Now, what's interesting about this, and then it's going to go around the table clockwise for the rest of the game. Now, what's interesting about that is that, the initiative is going to slide, and then we're going to do it. We can control the activation order of the survivors we control, but if we really wanted Drew's character to go survivor to go first because she's got the crowbar, which you need to open the door, but Craig has got initiative, Craig's got to do his 2 heroes first before Drew even gets to go. So it's not like Descent where the heroes can get together and totally choose activation order. The more players you have, the game gets harder because you have less and less control of activation order. If you're one player playing 4 survivors, you can control activation order all you want. But if you're 6 of you each controlling one guy, you're stuck in that clockwise circle. So it's a lot harder. That's an interesting mechanic in the game.
Yeah, it was neat.
So now, each hero gets 3 actions, okay? And so what's going to happen here is you're going to do any of the following things in any order you want. So you can move your guy a zone. And a zone is, remember, a room in a building, or it's an area outside, which is between a crosswalk on the street, right? So you can move your your survivor 1 zone. You can do what's called a search. Now, a search, most of these actions you can do more than once per turn. So, for example, if you really wanted to move out, you could move your survivor 3 zones. That's all your actions. You're done. If you want to, though, you can search. Now, searching can only be done once per turn, no matter how many actions you have, and it has to be done indoors. You can't search
or in
outside.
A car, right?
Or in a car, right? And it has to be done where there's not a zombie. So you can't search a room if a zombie's on you. And what you search, you're going to do is very simple. You're going to grab a card from the deck of equipment, and you're going to find something. It might be, and these cards are different things. A lot of them are weapons, but a lot of them are just random stuff, like a can of food, a bag of rice, a bottle of water. Now, when you first play the game, you're like, bottle of water? There's no special rules on this bottle of water. There's no rules in the book for what you do with a bottle of water. Now you just carry it. Now, what's interesting about those things is the bottle of water doesn't do anything except there's some missions where you have to go into the city and gather certain requirements. Like, we're going in for a scavenging hunt. We got to get a bottle of water, a bag of rice, and a canned goods before we can leave, and then we got to get to the exit, right? So it's right out of Walking Dead.
Sounds like Survivor.
Right. So you got to go and do that and get the hell out. So that mission has that. But even if you don't, sometimes it's good to carry things that don't do anything, because when a zombie wounds your hero, 2 things happen. First of all, you must give up 1 card of your choice to the zombie. Basically, he grabs it from you, which is kind of visually funny. It's like, give me the beans. You're like, no, you can't have the beans.
Or you throw the beans at him.
Or you throw the beans at the zombie, right. Second of all, the zombie wounds you. So two things happen. You got to give up a card, and you got to take one of these wound cards, which are the same size as the weapon cards, and put it in your survivor's inventory, which basically blocks a spot and shows you're wounded. Now, so it's important. If you're only carrying 2 kick-butt weapons, like a pair of matched machetes, and the zombie hits you, you've now lost your machete. Or worse yet, if you're only carrying a pistol and a zombie hits you, A, you're wounded, now B, you've lost your only weapon. So it's definitely handy to have some of the things you can just throw away you don't need. So it's always good. Now, the other warning about searching, though, some of the search cards actually have the fist of a zombie hand and say, zombie! That means,
hard.
Right, you turn over a pile of rags, that's no pile of rags, it's a zombie! And a zombie appears in your room, you got to deal with it, okay?
I do have a question for you, Russ.
Yeah.
When you take a wound, can you put that wound card in the reserve cards, or does it have to take up one of your hands, so you're only going to be able to carry one thing from then on?
It can be in reserve. It doesn't really...
Oh, okay. So you can still have your 2 machetes even though you're wounded?
As long as you had something else to give up, yes.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay. So that's how searching works. The next thing you can do is open a door. Now, all the doors in the game...
The thing I find interesting about this is that it's the zombie apocalypse and everybody had time to lock their doors.
Every door in the zombie apocalypse is apparently closed and locked from both the inside and the outside. So in order to get through a door, you must find a piece of equipment that allows you to open a door. Now, good news, several pieces of equipment let you do this. 2 of them are the axe and the crowbar. And careful listeners will remember that we started the game, 2 survivors somebody's got an axe and somebody's got a crowbar. Now, don't let the axe and the crowbar guys die early or get those things stolen by zombies, because that's bad, okay? Now, if you have a piece of equipment that lets you open a door, and it's got an icon on it that shows a door breaking, and that tells you that it can open a door, and also, so you can use the weapon to open the door. It takes 1 action to do that. Now, also, there are little yellow triangle tokens in this game with a little ear on them. That is a noise token. Now, some items, when you open a door, make noise. And to show you this, the icon that shows you opening a door also shows one of these little noise tokens on it. For example, the crowbar opens a door quietly. You put it in the door, you push it, no noise. The fire axe generates noise when you open a door because, of course, you're hacking through the door. So both these weapons open a door the same, but one makes noise, one doesn't. Good if you're trying to avoid zombies. So there you go. So you open the door. That's one of your actions. The other thing you can do is an inventory reorg. This basically means that one guy spends an action in the zone, and he can now exchange cards with anybody else in the zone, any other survivors in the zone, or amongst his own stuff. So this lets you take things, as Craig mentioned, out of the cards in the back of your in your backpack, essentially, and put them up front. So let's say you were wielding 2 machetes. Now you really like to get out the sniper rifle, put the machete in the backpack, get the sniper rifle out, now you're good to go. Or let's say Drew is standing next to you, and he's got no weapons, so you want to give Drew maybe your shotgun, but Drew's got 3 things of food he can't use, but he gives you 1 piece of food so you can get to a zombie in case you get attacked. So you can reorg with one reorg action and change your cards around. The other thing you can do is you can do a melee attack or a ranged attack, so the 2 other actions you have choosing, and you can get in or out of a car, and you can take an objective, you can make noise, you can do nothing. So basically you can attack, either shoot your gun or hit somebody with a sword. You can get in or out of a car or drive a car, more it does in a bit. You can take an objective that's sitting in the same spot as you. You can make some noise or get out. So those are all pretty simple.
I love the make noise option.
Make noise is great because you put a noise token where you are, which again is maybe good for distracting zombies.
Right.
Now, let's talk about attacking real quick. Attacking in this game is very easy. Every weapon card has all the stats you need to know about attacking. It's going to show a range, which is the number of zones, usually like 0 to 1, which means you can attack the same zone as you are 1 square away. Of course, melee weapons are all same zone, range 0. Next is going to show the number of dice the weapon uses. So if it's a pistol, it's got 1 die, so you're going to throw 1 attack die. More dice means more things you can wound. If it's a submachine gun, it might throw 3 attack dice, even better. It's also going to show if the weapon makes noise or not. So if it's a submachine gun, it'll have a little noise next to it, icon next to it. If it is a machete, it has a no noise next to it because machetes are very quiet killers. Because zombies don't yell when they die, everybody knows that. Now, also, what you have on there is you have the number you need to hit. And this is interesting. So you have volume of fire, like the submachine gun throws 3 dice, but it needs 5s to hit, whereas the pistol needs 4s to hit, but only fires 1 dice. So the pistol is more accurate, but doesn't kill as many zombies per turn. The machine gun fires more bullets, but if you get lucky, you can kill 3 zombies, but you may not kill any because it needs 5s to hit, right? Then you got the chainsaw, which is melee only, but throws 5 dice in melee combat, hits on 5s. It's awesome. Also, it noisily opens doors, too, just in case you're wondering. So different kinds of weapons, lots of different choices. So all you basically do is, if you're going to do a range attack, you say, I'm going to shoot that zone there, and you roll the number of dice you get, and every hit you get affects a zombie in that zone, or affects models in that zone, I should say. Now, when you're shooting, things get interesting, because as everyone knows, if you watched that one episode of Walking Dead where the chick shoots the dude, everybody knows that zombie apocalypse survivors are really good at shooting each other before they hit zombies. That's just a rule. It's just the way it is. So what happens in this game is if you shoot into a zone, there's an order of being hit. The first thing that happens is survivors always get shot first by other survivors. So basically, you don't want to shoot into a square where there's another survivor. Okay? Don't do it unless there's a grander plan and he's going to take one for the team because he's going to die anyway and you're going to be able to hit more zombies with the rest of your bullets, right? Next, walkers get hit. Then fatties get hit. Then runners get hit. And so basically, runners are fast and quick. So if they're in a spot with other zombies, they get hit last, so they're harder to hit. So basically, there's this priority order you got to deal with dealing damage. So basically what you do is you just start taking things off the table. Most zombies take only 1 wound to die, but things that are multiple wound, like fatties, have 2 wounds on them. That means that you don't take persistent wounds. You don't like put a wound marker on them. Instead, what happens is if the weapon does 1 wound or less and they're a 2 wound creature, they simply are not wounded by that weapon. So a fatty cannot be hurt by a pistol. Just doesn't. But a shotgun that has 2 wounds, a fatty can be killed by a shotgun. Right? So it's just that simple. The problem is, if you've got a fatty sitting there with runners, the fatty will absorb all the fire from your pistols and the runners are safe. So you really got to deal with that whole situation. That's shooting. Melee combat's much simpler because you can pick who your targets are. So in melee combat, you're just going to roll your dice and you pick who you hit with your swords. Right? So it's a little simpler. It's safer. So basically, don't shoot a gun when there's survivors nearby in the same zone because you will hit them in first. Just how it is. It's a sort of an abstraction some people have trouble with. You just got to suck it up and it's part of the game. All right. Making sense so far still, Drew? With me?
Yeah, still following it. I was going to ask, how often did you find yourself exchanging equipment? Like when you use that option, did it happen a lot? Was it rare?
It does because what happens is there are. We should mention this, and we didn't mention this before. Craig mentioned there's skills on your survivor sheet, and everybody starts when the danger level is blue. Everybody's got 1 skill, and it's different for every survivor. And in fact, the skill trees you can level up and choose from are also different for all survivors. So every survivor is different skill-wise. One of the survivors has a skill that whenever he searches, he draws 2 cards and gets both of them. He's a better searcher.
Gotcha.
Or no, I think he can search twice a turn. That's what it is. So he's one of the ones that can search twice a turn. So some guys can search more often than others. So what ends up happening is also what happens, Drew, is you got one guy he starts the game with the pistol, right? He's out in the street killing zombies, defending the guys. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew's inside trying to find good equipment before they go out. So now they come out, they've got 2 or 3 good things. Now you might want to spread it out and make sure everybody's got the right stuff. Someone might find extra ammo, which like pistols reroll misses, right? So you got to give that to the guy with the pistol because you also found a machete. You're going to wield that kind of thing. So you do find that you're doing that kind of stuff. One thing to be careful about: if your survivor dies, he loses all of his equipment. So you've got one guy carrying everything you need because you're in that mission where you need the rice, the beans, and the water, and one guy's got it all and he dies. Oh crap! You got to go collect it all again. So watch for that. All right. So basically, in our turn, we're going to move. So we're going to activate all our survivors. They're going to do their movement. They're going to search. Maybe they're going to shoot some zombies. What we're going to do, then they're done. The important thing to remember is whenever you make noise, put the noise tokens wherever you are. Okay. Now that's the hero's turn. Once all of our heroes are activated, it's time for the zombies to go, which are totally controlled by the game. The very first thing you do, and this is again all right in the back of the book. So once you play the game, once you're like, oh, it's right in the back of the book, and it's easy to remember. First thing that happens is zombies attack. Zombies always hit and always wound. So basically, zombies never miss. The thing to remember about zombies is they will attack if they start their activation in the square with you. So if you searched, right, and you pull out oh no, there's a zombie in the rag pile card. Now he's in the room with you. You need to deal with that now because if it gets to the zombie turn, he is going to wound who's ever in the room with it. He's going to wound one guy. Now the players can choose which hero gets wounded. So there's 3 heroes standing there, right, and there's a zombie. There's 1 wound getting done to a survivor. Who's it going to be? What's he giving up? And what's he going to take for a wound, right? That's pretty much it. The good news is that all zombies only do 1 wound. So it doesn't matter whether it's it's sort of true. If a walker or a fatty or an abomination, the big dudes, they all just hit you once. The only difference to that is the runners. The runners actually get 2 actions a turn. So if they start next to you, they'll get 2 attacks, which means they're going to wound 2 guys. So basically, zombies, you first look around the board. Any zombies that are in the same space with the hero, do a wound. You got to deal with it and resolve it right now. Okay? And if a hero's already got 1 wound, I didn't mention this before, when a zombie hits you, he takes an item, puts a wound token on you. The next time a zombie hits you, you put another wound token on you. If you get to 2 wounds, you're dead. So you only get 2 wounds in this game. That's it, period, done. Now, the other thing I should mention, too, about movement, if you try to move from a zone that's got a zombie in it, it costs you an extra movement action for every zombie above 0 that's there, right? So if you're moving from a zone to a zone that's empty, it's 1 movement action. If there's a zombie there, it's going to cost you 2 movement points to get out of the zone. If there's 2 zombies there, it costs you 3 to get out of the zone. So as soon as you get 3 zombies in a spot, you can't really escape with enough basic actions in the game to do it, right? So all of a sudden, you're getting mobbed by zombies and you can't get away. So don't let 3 zombies get on you. And that's when it's like, okay, just shoot into the zone and kill the hero because he's a dead man anyway, right? Just try to save him or kill as many zombies as you can. All right, so the zombies attack. The next thing happens, let's say there's no zombies next to heroes or whatever. Next thing, zombies move. Now, when zombies move, it's very simple. You look around the board. If a zombie can draw a line of sight to a hero, they move straight towards that survivor. If they can't draw a line of sight, they move in the direction that takes them the shortest path to the most noise. So you look on the table for all those noise tokens you are generating. And also remember, this is something easy to forget, every hero counts as a single noise token. So if you've made a little noise here and a little noise there, but all 6 survivors are on 1 square, well, that 1 square's got 6 noise tokens on it technically, so they're all going to go there anyway. So I guess zombies can hear your heartbeat or something. So watch out for that. So basically, that's how you move your zombies. Now, one interesting rule in the game is zombies are apparently like amoebas and they split through meiosis. So how that works is if a zombie has 2 equal paths he can go, okay, so there's a group of 4 zombies, let's say, and there are 2 equally short paths to the most noise. You split the group evenly, so you'd have 2 go one way and 2 go the other. That's not a problem. But if there are 3 zombies in a square and they need to split up, the ending result when they split, there has to be an equal number of zombies in both places, which means you add more zombies show up. So if you have 3 zombies, you got to split in 2 different directions. You got to have 2 in one spot, you got to have 1 in the other. Well, you got to fix that. You got to put another zombie into the game, so there's now 2 and 2. Okay, so you just got to make sure you make sure that when you divide zombies up, the groups have to be equally half split, and if they're not, you got to add more zombies to do so. So that's moving. So they all move 1 square, except for fast zombies. Fast zombies get 2 activations, they're runners, so they'll probably move 2 squares, or they'll move 1 square and attack you if they're only 1 square away. So if you're 1 square away from a zombie, they move 1, you're probably fine if it's a walker or a fatty, but if it's a runner, he's going to move 1 and attack you, so you got to watch that too. All right. After you've moved all your zombies and you've fought with all your zombies, does the movement make sense, guys?
Yep.
All right.
So far.
Pretty straightforward. Now it's time to spawn zombies. So what you do is you look at each of the spawn points on the game. There are big red spawn zones. You're going to turn over 1 card from the zombie deck for each spawn zone in the game. And you're going to put that many zombies the card describes in that zone on the table. So it's usually the end of a road someplace. And there's usually more than 1. And one rule about the game is, too, is once you've picked which spawn zone is the first one you draw for each turn, you can't change it. So you can't be halfway through the game and go, you know, it would really be better if we drew first over here. You can't do that. You got to do the same thing. So you flip the card over. Now, on each of the zombie spawn cards, there are 4 levels that correspond to different colored danger tracks than the heroes have. Remember we mentioned there's like a blue section of danger track on the hero card. There's an orange, yellow, orange, and red. And as the hero moves from one section of danger to the next, he or she's going to get more cool abilities. That's great. But the problem is, as soon as one hero is in the yellow section of a danger level, he has now put the entire game at essentially what we call yellow alert, right? So the entire game is at yellow level. So even though the rest of the heroes could still be in blue, one guy's gone to yellow, so the entire game is in yellow. Why that matters is when you flip over a zombie spawn card, there are the 4 colors that match the 4 colors in the danger track. At the blue or lowest level, you get the least number of zombies per card. A lot of zeros in there, no zombies show up, or maybe 1 or 2 zombies. At the yellow level, all of a sudden there's a lot more zombies of worse types. Now all of a sudden, where there might have been a 0 for blue, there's 2 walkers for yellow, or maybe a runner, or even a fatty. And fatties, by the way, always come with 2 walkers next to them. So keep that in mind, too. So basically, as your heroes level up, your zombie threats come in higher volume, more zombies per turn. And the other problem is, as the rest of the heroes look around the table, they're like, wait a minute, if you kill that zombie, and we didn't describe how you get more, go up on the track. You go up on the track every time you kill a zombie. So if Craig kills 3 zombies this turn, his little guy goes up 3 pips on the old danger meter, which means he's getting close to the next level, but it also means we're getting close to the yellow level of the zombie, of the threat level, right? Yeah. And if Craig is now going to kill 1 more zombie with this guy, we might say, wait, Craig, if you kill that zombie, you're going to go to yellow.
Sorry, what?
Craig. You're going to go to yellow, but if I kill him, I'll still be in blue. So let me level up with you so we're closer in the same level, because if you get to if one guy does all the killing for your whole posse, he'll get to red level, but the rest of the guys won't have enough extra stuff to do to win. And a big deal is these new abilities you get, a lot of them are bonus actions. So you go from 3 actions to 4 actions per turn, which is huge. Or you get the slippery ability, which means you can leave areas with zombies without having to spend extra action points. Things like this, all kinds of special extra dice in the attack, all kinds of huge advantages that you really, really want. So you want to try to kill evenly across all your heroes, because if you don't, you're going to have some guy's going to be superhero, but the rest of the guys are going to get mobbed by zombies, basically. So that's how spawning works. Now, there are some special spawn cards in there. Some of them have a little manhole cover on the top. And when that shows up, it means instead of the zombies spawning from the edge of the table where the spawn point is, they spawn from the manhole covers that are scattered throughout the board. This is really dangerous because you think you're safe, and all of a sudden it comes out of the manhole cover, and you've got zombies all over you now. Very, very discerning. The other thing that happens is some of the cards say extra activation. So instead of more zombies coming, it'll say all walkers get an extra activation. This is when heroes die. Because a lot of times you'll take a gamble in this game where there's 3 zombies that are 1 square away, but the objective token is 1 square from them. You're like, you know what? I'm going to move into that square and grab the objective this turn. I know the zombies will walk forward and be next to me, but they don't attack the turn they walk, so I'm okay. So I have 3 zombie. I'm not armed with the chainsword. I'm slippery. I can kill a few of them and I can get away. I'll be fine. The problem with that plan is if during the spawn phase one of those extra activation cards comes up, oh God, they get a free turn. They all attack you and you're dead. So it's risky. You can't bank on that. The other thing to remember about Zombicide is you can play the game where I'm going to try to avoid killing zombies. So I'm going to run around and use my noise to distract them, get all the objectives, and just let zombies pile up into big mobs someplace on the board. And that's fine because I'm going to stay the heck away because I'm much faster than them. And this seems like a good plan early on, but here's the warning. When a certain type of zombie runs out, in other words, you've got all the plastics on the table. So let's say you're running around with the 40 walkers that come in the box all on the table, which looks awesome. 40 walkers wobbling all over the place. And you're thinking, no problem, no more zombies are going to spawn. How bad can it be? If a spawn comes for a zombie type that you're out of, they get an extra activation automatically. So those 40 walkers all get a free turn. And walkers are the most commonly spawned zombie in the game. So if all 40 walkers are on the table and you've got 4 spawn points, you're basically, odds are, going to have 4 bonus activations for those walkers. That is 40 zombies moving 4 squares a turn. That is like crazy speed. So they get faster and scarier. So you have to, as the survivor, kill zombies while you're trying to get the job done, because if you don't, they're going to be just too fast and you'll be all over you. Very interesting mechanic. Now, I mentioned earlier there are 4 different types of zombies. There are walkers, runners, fatties, and abominations. So the big difference here is the runners get dual activation, the fatties are harder to kill, and the abominations actually are 3 wound models. Basically means they cannot be killed by any conventional weapon in the game. They can only be killed by the Molotov cocktails, and the Molotov cocktails can only be, remember, he took them out of the deck. The only way to get a Molotov cocktail is you can find gasoline and you can find glass bottles. And if you ever find both those things, the same hero has them, he instantly turns it into one Molotov cocktail. So what you want to do is, there's another good example of trading, Drew, right? If one guy finds the gasoline, one guy finds the bottle, make a Molotov. Molotov cocktails are awesome in this game because they kill every single zombie in a zone, all of them no matter what, automatically, and an abomination too. So what typically ends up happening is you got abomination just walking around the table, and it's like the big fat dudes in Left 4 Dead. You just run away from them. You just stay the hell away from them. But if you can find a Molotov, you can take them out. The good news is there's only one of them in the base game. If you bought the abomination level game, I have 2, so I can actually have 2 at my board, which is equally scary. But they're not that hard to avoid. They only move 1 square. You just stay away from them. So that is pretty much the whole game. That's pretty much it. You hear, now
very good.
Very simple, but the where the game shines is the missions, the things you're trying to do. Like I mentioned before, one of them, you had to break in there and find those different things. And there's also objectives, right? So you'll see like little X tokens around the board. And one of the second mission in the game is basically you got to find those 3 different food items, plus you got to get to all the objectives on the table. Now, when you go to pick an objective, most missions, you get 5 danger track points for when you pick up an objective. Now, 5 points, it's about 10 to 15 points between danger levels. So if I run out with my guy and pick up that X, I'm going to get 5 experience points, which is awesome, except that it's taking me that much closer. So here's the problem. There's these long buildings, right, with 3 objectives in them. Now, it's really easy, once you clear the building out of zombies, more about that in a second, to send like your really, really fast roller skating chick who moves 2 zones for every activation, that's her special ability, to zip through there and grab all those objectives. That's great. Except when she does that, that's 5, 10, 15 points for her. She just bumped us up to like yellow level all by herself, which is bad. So you got to kind of balance that out a little bit. You can do that, but it's a risky business because she's going to be the kick-ass guy and everybody else is going to be low level while the zombies get worse. Now, one more thing about zombie spawning, and it's kind of a key part of the game, and that is when you open a door to a new building you haven't been in before. Buildings, apparently in the zombie apocalypse, are always filled with zombies. It's just the way it is. So when you pop that door open, there's going to be some number of rooms in the building. And depending on the map layout, these buildings are nasty. Some of them have 4 or 5, 3 or 4 rooms in them. Some of them, the way you can put the tiles together, could be connected with openings and be like 10, 15, even 15 rooms in them. When that happens and a door pops open on a brand new building, you got to point to each room and flip over a spawn card. That's how many zombies are in that room. So this is a big part of the tactics of solving these missions. Because some of these missions have these really, as I mentioned, really long buildings with lots of rooms in them. If you pop that room open at the blue level of the game, it's not so bad. Every other one's empty, 2 zombies in there. Okay, you can deal with that. It's a lot of zombies. You kind of fall back, lure them out with noise, let them all group up, and maybe hit them with a lot of submachine guns and wheedle them out, right? But if you decided to wait on that building and go in there and kill some of the zombies first and be all beefed up, now when you open that door, though, all those spawn cards, you're looking at the yellow level or maybe even the orange level of the card. And now it's like 3, 4, 5, 6 zombies per room. So you've gone from 0 zombies or 3 zombies on the table to like 30 zombies on the table in a heartbeat. Some of them are runners ripping through the room really fast. Very, very scary stuff. So what you're going to be torn with is, we got to get to that room now quickly and pop it open before the level of the game changes. That's no problem with the first building. Cleared it. But now do we pop the second building also while we're still at the blue level and put, maybe open up 20 rooms of zombies but keeping them all at blue spawn? Or do we clear the first building, but that'll probably take someone to yellow and now open the second building at yellow, right? So and you can't ignore one of the buildings because there's objectives in both. What do you do? So there's some interesting combinations. And again, how the maps are laid out really change that, because in the earlier levels, the buildings are relatively small. The later levels, like warehouses or something, they're just huge, full of rooms. That's a really interesting mechanic.
Have you played through all the scenarios you let Russ?
I've been through about half of them. I keep ending up playing the same mission because I love, my favorite mechanic of the game is the cars. And so I keep ending up playing the one where there's like a loop in the middle and you just drive the cars in a circle and run zombies over. So cars are fantastic in this game. They're really simple mechanics. You get into a car and it's one action. You can search the car as another action. There are 2 types of cars in the game. There's the pimp mobile, which is one side, looks like this crazy pimped out vehicle, and there's the police car. What's nice about searching a car is, in the police car, it's always a weapon. So you turn over the equipment deck, and if you don't get a weapon, if you get like rice, you keep drawing until you get a weapon. Unless you get a zombie, then it's full of a zombie. So that's bad news. But you often will get weapons in the police car. You can also search the police cars as often as you like, so they're a great source of weapons. If you search the pimp mobile, you can only search the pimp mobile once per game, but it always has one of 2 cards in it, either Ma's shotgun or the Evil Twins, both which are fantastic, super elite weapons. So if that vehicle's on the table, you're going to get one of those guaranteed, which is awesome. Then once you're in the car, you can drive, and you can drive up to 2 squares in one activation. You put a noise token every space you move through because the car's making noise. And every square you move through, you roll a die for every figure in it, and every 4+ does a wound to that model. And so if it's full of zombies, if there's 10 zombies in there, you drive your car in there, it's 10 dice. Every 4 kills a zombie, as long as it's not as long as it's a 1 wound zombie. So it'll kill runners, it'll kill regulars, but you hit them in the order we described earlier. So runners always get hit last, blah, blah, blah. Heroes also always get hit first when you're in your car, too. So just that way. So don't drive through places where their heroes are. But it's really nasty. You can kill lots and lots of zombies, getting one guy in a car, luring all the zombies into the street and just backing up and driving forward. It's just really funny. Like, reverse, drive through the square with zombies, go into forward, drive through the square with zombies again, get like 20 zombie kills on a turn. But again, the problem with that is the driver's scoring all those kills. He just went up to like red level all of a sudden in one turn. So you got to balance that out too. But the cars are really fun. That really pretty much is the whole game. Does that make sense?
Have you thought about adding miniatures for your cars?
It would be cool. That would be really neat, actually. And the cars are also fun because you can shoot out of them and shoot into them, and the zombies can attack you in the car. But basically, you can drive around and have this room for 3 passengers. So basically, the driver runs the zombies over, pull in. You can swing the machete out the window, so you can cut the guy down with a machete or a chainsaw. You can have a guy shooting the back with the SMG. It's just really a fun visual. Miniatures would be cool. I've not tried that yet, though. Let's see. So that's pretty much the main game. Now, options. I talked about the abomination level, what you get there. That's pretty cool.
What you got, right? I mean, you can't get that anymore.
Not yet, but I think you're going to sell them individually eventually. They also have other heroes coming out you could have got. Like and all the heroes, by the way, we should mention, are all variants. They're non-IP infringing heroes, but they're all clearly based on heroes from famous zombie movies. So there's
or other things.
Yeah, there's a cop who's clearly from Walking Dead. There's one of the heroes I got in the abomination level is clearly Bruce Willis from Die Hard. There is a guy I also got is clearly Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. He's even got a little plastic lightsaber on his belt. That's really funny. Excuse me. And they all have different abilities. Cool little background fluff. And there's a Chuck Norris figure, which I don't own, that you can get. I got to get him. He was a bonus guy I did not get. Also, this spring, there's an expansion coming out. And if you Kickstarted it, which I did, I will be getting sent zombie versions of all the heroes. And that's got me really curious because one of the things about this game, I guess the one negative is there is player elimination. So technically, if all your heroes die, your survivors die, you're technically out of the game. So if Drew and Craig and I are all playing, ideally, because by the way, people will die. I have not seen a game in this succeed other than the training scenario where at least one hero doesn't die.
Yeah.
Ideally, Craig didn't lose both of his guys. Ideally, I'll lose a guy, Craig will lose a guy, maybe Drew lose a guy. We're all still playing. But it can happen just based on circumstance or wherever the dice fall or whatever, that both your heroes die and you're out. I'm really curious with the undead versions of these heroes coming out if they're going to turn it into a semi-cooperative game where if you die, you turn to a zombie, then you play the other side. That would be fantastic. I'm hoping that's how the expansion works. But that remains to be seen. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But they've been supporting the heck out of this game. A bunch of their stretch goals, they have already satisfied as well. One of the stretch goals was, hey, if we make it to here, there'll be a scenario designer software. That's already out. You can go to their website and download that. And that's got a free built software that knows all the tiles you own. And you can drag and drop the tiles and make the scenario you want, put the doors on there, make a pre-map, and print it all out. There's also a free iPad app they've already made, which manages your character, so it kind of replaces the character mat. It's pretty neat. What I like about it is it makes little zombie noises, which is kind of cute. There are also 2 bonus missions already on their website you can download. And they came out with a cool campaign that actually links a bunch of special scenarios that are only found in the campaign book together in a really neat way. It's very, very hard, but it's a neat story to play through. So that is Zombicide. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Drew? What do you think?
I can't wait to play it. Like I said, I've seen friends playing it. It looks just great. The miniatures are great. I'll buy a copy and play it.
Very
Can't
cool.
wait.
So let's give our final thoughts. But Craig, before we get to that, we got to describe the patent pending D6G rating system. So Craig, in the style of a zombie apocalypse survivor, please describe the patent pending D6G rating system.
Okay. Oh my God, they're right outside the door. I don't know how many zombies there are, but there's just a lot of them, and well, they all look different, and I don't know how to tell you, those of you who will come after, which ones to worry about more. I'm gonna rate them for you. The really scary ones that look like you don't want to play with them, they're scary. We're gonna give them a really, really high rating, like a D6, and if you roll it if you got a 6, then it's bad. But the really easy ones, like the really slow ones that you can kind of kick as you walk by them, I'll give those a really low rating. So a really low rating is good, and a really high.
Nice.
Brains.
Excellent. So there it is. There's the D6G rating system. So, Craig, you want to go first, or want me to go first? Or do you
I'll go first.
All right.
I really enjoyed when we played it at Adepticon, and it was really exciting, and you get immediately right into it. You feel that pressure. You feel that excitement. There are a couple fiddly little bit problems. Those have all been fixed in the final version of the game. Even back then, the quality of the models was awesome. I am very excited to get a chance to actually sit down with some time and play out a full scenario. I'm really excited to do that, maybe with a car. That'd be cool. I'm contemplating whether or not I should pick it up, because when we play Last Night on Earth, I'm wondering if Karen will like this. I think the game's a little deeper without being any more complicated. So I don't think it's any more complicated than Last Night on Earth. I think it's more appealing to me as a gamer. So I'm very intrigued. I want to try to see if might not happen until PattyCon, but I'm going to try to get Karen to play this and see, because I would like to, if there's some chance that I can play it at home or with friends when they're around, then I think I'm probably going to have to buy it. Otherwise, so many of you kickstarted it that I don't think I have to buy it. But this is one I was very Kickstart shy when this came out, because I had just finished one that the day after they finished, they were like, oh, by the way, we won't be giving you any of the stuff that we told you we would give you for months now. And update, still haven't gotten any of my stuff. So I was very shy. I didn't support it, and I do feel like I feel left out. So I'm going to say, and all the people that have watched the games and wanted to play the games and played the game and immediately wanted to buy the game, I'm going to say this is a 3+ with a reroll, +1 if you're a big fan of the zombie genre.
I like the rating. That's a good rating.
I think it's well worth it.
All right, so I'll sum up next, Drew, and then you can be the pinch hitter. You be the
Sounds good.
Flip batter. Pinch hitter's wrong term. I'm like one of those NFL referees. All right, so see, topical. I'm not even a sports guy.
Are we just supposed to talk about something completely other than Zombicide and get it all wrong now? Right. Is that where we're going?
So when I play games about unicorns, what I like, so I really like this game, and it's one of my favorite co-op games to play. Period. I think the cinematic situations you get into are so much fun. It's just very visual. You really see it. The zombies, the survivors do die. You feel the pressure, and it's just so cool to see that many zombie models just coming at you. I just really like it a lot, and it just gets in my head, and I just see what's going on there. I love the mechanics. I love the fact that the balance, killing evenly versus you've got an opportunity to really kill a lot of zombies here this turn, but it's going to throw the meter up too high, and what do? Do you just go for it? Do you not? Trying to balance how to open the doors. The missions are so different. They're so much fun. They're some of them are really hard. The noise mechanic's really interesting, too. I really like... You can kind of ignore it and not even worry about it and just play the game. But at some point, it's going to kick into you and realize, oh, wow, I can kind of hide in this room and the zombies will walk right by me if I do this right. And that's when all of a sudden the game gets really interesting and you get all sneaky until all of a sudden a runner moves twice and comes around the corner and sees you. So a second activation, he comes right at you like, oh, no! Or you find one in a thing, and you just learn little tricks like never search with your last action because that's when the zombie always shows up. Always search with your first actions. You have 2 more actions to shoot him in the head, that kind of thing. Little things like that. The car, I love the cars. There's some things in it you have to sort of just accept as abstractions, like the fact that when you drive the car, you always run over heroes first. You basically don't drive through the spots with heroes in them. Basically, think of it this way. He's covered in zombies at this point. If he's in a square with 15 zombies in it, just though it is. But it is frustrating because you can't even really drive through a square with a hero in it because you will hit him automatically. So you just kind of get in that. So it's get out of the way. You're honking at him. Get out of the road, kind of thing. So there's that kind of abstraction in there. But if you get past that, it's really a fantastic game. Very easy to teach. Very easy to learn. You'll be all into it after 2 minutes of play. And the stylized artwork's great. The art's fantastic. It's carried through the rule book. Little bits of fluff. There's little jokes in the mission briefings that are really wonderful. They're doing a fantastic job supporting it so far with all the great downloads. Not just the rulebook online, which is there. Go look at the rulebook. It's on their website at guillotinegames.com. You can download the rulebook in PDF format. You can download all the bonus scenarios, see it all going on. It's all there. It's all right there. But also, it's just a fantastic value for models too. It's just really a great, as we talked about in the Lost Chapter. It's a really great melding of board game, miniature game. In a fantastic package. Also, one note, I did actually end up picking up the battle foam. I know their sponsor is going to sound totally like I'm sucking up to them, but I love the Zombicide battle foam because zombies drop in. You can hold all of them plus the Abomination guys in 2 trays that do fit inside the box, and they pop in and out so quickly. I just take them out, put them on the board. As they die, put them back into the foam, and it's an easy way to manage them all. So I really like that as well. It's worth kicking it up a notch if you get into the game that much. It's a little pricey, but I think it's worth it. So I'm going to agree with Craig. I think it's a 3+ with a reroll. I'm going to say it's +1 for either zombie fans or co-op fans. This is becoming my favorite co-op game. I really like it. For some reason, there's less of people forcing each other what to do, and it just seems like people work on their own. I don't know why that is. It just seems, so far the people I've played it with, hasn't been a lot of one guy controlling the whole thing or whatever. So have a lot of fun with it. So Drew, what do you think? What do you think of your desire to play the game, and what do you think about what you heard?
I definitely want to play the game. I'm really excited about it. I'm intrigued by the co-op. I'm still bewildered by the single-player option. Have you guys ever done that? Have you ever just played a board game by yourself?
No, I always think it sounds odd.
It's funny. I don't do a lot of that, but I know a lot of people out there that do it. And we have a lot of listeners who write in and say, hey, what's a great single-player game? The Castle Ravenloft series can do it. There's some other games that have them. They're even like Starfleet Battles and stuff have single-player modes. You can play them in. So some people like it. So if you do like that.
I can see that. I want to play the game with other people because I can picture myself having a really good time with my friends playing this game.
Now, what is nice about it... Oh, go ahead. Well, what is nice about it is you could practice one player to get the rules down. So when you do teach your friends, you're ready to go. It's another option.
I can't wait to paint the models. That's my biggest drive for this. And I'm going to definitely paint some cars.
Yeah, there you go.
Right into the game because it's going to be exciting. And lastly... I want to support this game simply because there's somebody that did Kickstarter that delivered on their Kickstarter, and I think that should be rewarded. I'm going to go buy a copy just because of that. Just to reward good business practices and reward the guys that are delivering on what they promised on Kickstarter.
Yeah, fair enough. Great. All right, well, that is Zombicide. There you have it. Zombie apocalypse in a box.
Woohoo!
Absolutely. Brains!
Are you looking for news, reviews, and interviews? The D6 generation. It's groovy as groovy does define, baby. The D6 generation. Born to game. Oh, yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, Russ, school's been going for about a month now, and I am ready for a vacation.
Oh, yeah? Where do you want to go?
Well, I was looking, and what I would really, what I really want to do, I would really love to go to England, but I missed out on that one already.
Yeah, it's gone.
Nation Tours had their Geeking Out with Miniatures in England tour, and it just ended last week, which means Terrace is probably crawling home for a few days before he rushes out again.
Off to DualCon, but that's already over, too.
DualCon is already over, too. Actually,
Yep.
I just talked to Romeo today.
Oh, yeah? How's he doing?
And, and he was exhausted from DualCon.
Yep.
So things must have gone well there.
Yep, Geek Nation Tours was there as well. Every place, anything of geek happenings going on, Geek Nation Tours is right there, getting you into the middle of the action.
Yep.
That's how they roll.
I got it. And I got to tell you, the big one that I'm missing out on right now that I feel I would love to go to is Black Library.
Canadian
the Black Library Weekender over in England. I've been looking at all of the stuff you get only if you go to the at the Weekender. And Geek Nation Tours is going to be there. Unfortunately, it's in the middle of my semester, so I will not.
Be sure to check them out, too. Not only do all these great places like New York Comic-Con coming up, they're going to be there, getting you there. They take you on great places around the actual geek event as well. You're going to see really great sights. You're going to eat really great food. You're going to be hanging out with people, traveling people who are all like you. They're going to have the same interests. It's going to be easy to strike up conversations. Anyway, some guys, some of our listeners who went on the Geek Nation Tours tour at Gen Con came back and said, the best thing about the tour was the people I was with. It was just great. I'm in a country I'm not familiar with. I'm in a city I don't know. I'm in a first time at a convention that's really big and imposing, and I'm with a bunch of guys who are in the same boat I am. They have similar interests as me. I got to know them on the way over, and now I have someone I can touch base with between different events, and that's just really that made me feel so good because it was great to hear that Geek Nation Tours really delivers on those promises and really makes a really wonderful experience that you really can't get any other way.
No, those guys were really, really excited. They had a lot. They looked like they were having fun every time we saw them. And it's just really, really cool. And so go ahead and go on over to geeknationtours.com. Check out their upcoming tours. And don't forget Adepticon 2013, and you'll see us there.
Indeed.
This edition of Did You Ever Notice is brought to you by Ruse, Victorian steampunk murder mystery. Ruse, find motive, method, and opportunity. Ruse, coming soon to Kickstarter, powered by Game Salute. Did you ever notice that sometimes in the middle of a game, somebody can quite often throw a fit? All the time these fits take various shapes and sizes, and they can be anything from a peevish little look to, flipping out on you and throwing, models, dice, a tape measure. I've seen all of these. In fact, I've thrown one or two in my day. And by throw, I mean I put down forcefully. Russ always claims that I threw, but I don't think I threw. I think I placed firmly down, maybe from 8 inches up, my tape measure once, a long, long time ago. And I've never heard the end of it. Actually, I haven't heard it in years. And then I thought up this topic for the Did You Ever Notice segment, and then I remembered that Russ gave me grief for that for years afterwards. Although we have seen other people literally throw things across the room at provocations varying from the ridiculously minor all the way to the egregious mortal insult that would probably prick a saint to some sort of physical response. My personal favorite was a friend of mine, Jeff, who was a great guy and usually the calmest guy in the room, which is good because he was like 6.5 feet tall, hugely muscled, and a police officer. But this one time we were playing 40K, and And he was the kind of guy who had those enormous brass dice, and I mean the actual dice. I'm not using a euphemism here. And one day his die rolling was just atrocious. Like, I mean, approaching the level of my bad dice rolling. And he just, all of a sudden, this was way back at Norwich. So we were playing in the trophy room again at the bottom of Crawford Hall, as I've spoken of many times before. And basically an empty room, and with a ledge all the way around it, which was, I think, supposed to be for trophies. And we used it as the wailing wall where all your casualties would go so people could keep track of how badly you were doing. And it was really an atrociously decorated room, and the walls were that 60s, 70s fake wood paneling. And Jeff was throwing these dice, and these giant, enormous, heavy brass dice, and they just completely let him down. And he winged them at the wall, like literally from across the room, and they embedded in that cheap, crazy fake wood paneling. It looked like bullets. It looked like somebody had shot a machine gun at the wall, and we were all shocked, including Jeff, at the at this response. And yeah, that's not by far and away not the most dramatic fit I've ever seen, but it's my favorite moment because as soon as he did it, he was like, oh my God, what the heck did I just do? You know what I mean? Because he was a normal kind of laid back guy usually, and he was just really, really frustrated for some reason. And then there's those other fits, though, that make you really uncomfortable. And luckily, I have met very few people that would throw that kind of fit on a regular basis, and just avoided them when I identified them in a group, which is what I would recommend. But sometimes you can't avoid those folks in a group. Maybe your group is too small to avoid them. Or maybe you're one of those crusader type personalities that just really wants to go out there and help people or point out their flaws. If you're one of those kind of people who've convinced yourself that it's a crusader mentality or whatever. And so it's always, every now and then I also get email like, hey, do something on how to deal with a jerk when you meet him. And so that's always percolated in the back of my head. Recently, we have a friend. Well, actually, this is the crossing of two friendships. Really, we have a friend who's having some trouble with their young baby, not really baby, but very young child, dealing with really, really rough temper tantrum issues. Which, whenever that comes up, Karen and I always try to be like sympathetic. But seriously, Reese, his worst fit is he'll sit down and go, no, and then you'll say, oh, come on, buddy, we got to go, and he'll be like, okay, and then get up again. So we are crazy, crazy blessed. But I know most people aren't having that kind of experience, and I'm expecting mine to take a turn for the worst at any moment now, just because of who I am. But this poor couple is dealing with a really, really recalcitrant child who is constantly having these fits. So we have another friend in a totally different circle of friends who is a very, very good psychiatrist. Like really, really good. Like very, very, it's awesome just to chat with him and talk about stuff, get insight into what he thinks drives other people. And he's a Freudian, so he has all of these theories, and he right down to that awesome office in his house that like looks like it was lifted right out of a movie, with busts of Freud and Jung, and then of course portraits of him from various stages in his life, and of course a portrait of Indiana Jones, because you've got to have that weird little element to your personality also. So we were talking to him, and he gave us an excellent piece of advice that I expect to have to use someday in my life, and that is that when a child is throwing a fit or a tantrum, you have to take a step back for a moment, and you have to decide there's only two possible things that you can do or that's causing this, or that you should do. One is correction, and the baby's screaming, and you're going to have to let them scream because they're learning a lesson. Or two is comfort, and that means they're screaming because they need something they're not getting, or they're scared or something like that's legitimate, and that you need to comfort them because of that. And I thought about this a lot because I think all parents are nervous about that kind of thing, and I don't want my baby ever to think that he isn't getting something he wants. And then because it was constantly in my mind, I started to realize, dealing with the teenage students that I have, that you've got teenagers throw fits all the time. Now, their fits are usually sarcastic. And I mean, in my class, I really cannot control my own sarcasm. So I have a very hard time coming down on kids for being sarcastic. But, sometimes they can get really bad. And I started to realize that when teenagers in my classroom were starting to act up, it came down to the same thing. Sometimes it was a control issue. They need to deal with it themselves, and they need to learn a lesson, and they need to be upset. And I can't give them it. I'm not allowed. I shouldn't be giving them anything because that they're upset at a legitimate thing, but they have to learn that it's not my fault that they're upset, that they've done something bad. For instance, they came to class late. I'm going to give them a detention. They flip out. Well, that's correction. I don't have a choice. I'm not going to give in. But then there are other kids who are going to flip out, and they're going to flip out because maybe they're very insecure about something and somebody said something, or maybe they've had a really bad day and all of a sudden something snapped and they're upset. And so I started to realize that in my life, I was seeing, wow, when people get really upset, that advice also works. Sometimes it's correction, and you need to say, look, I know you're upset, but this is the way it's got to be. And sometimes it's something that needs comfort. And then I started to think, does that fit into gaming? And I think it does. And I think sometimes, when the guy across the table is just having really, really bad dice rolls, and he's just like, I mean, I'm not condoning awful behavior, but if, the other guy's just having a terrible game, then I think it's totally okay to kind of say, oh, dude, I totally agree with you, man. I've had games like that, blah, 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 and in a buddy sort of way, comradely sort of way to comfort that person. But then, for instance, there's, as one example, times when you might have a rules dispute. And somebody is trying to do something that's just egregious. It's just so wrong, and it's wrong. That model has a 6-inch move, and they're using an 8-inch move, and you try to call them on it, and they're like, what? They get all angry, and they get in your face, which is a tactic that I have seen at tournaments all the way up to national level tournaments. So it's not like this is a rare occurrence. It is rare. It's not like even a slim majority of your games are like that. But I would say every other giant tournament I've gone to, I've met with one of these type of people, and they try to bully their way through the rule, and that's when you're just gonna be like, look, no, sorry. And luckily, in most well-run tournaments, of course, you're gonna have somebody that you can call upon that'll clarify that rule. But the key is when you see someone getting upset, to take a step back, just like my friend said, and look. Is the person legitimately upset? Is there something going on here that I may not even be aware of, but some legitimate thing? And what I really need to do is kind of say, I see your way. I see what you're saying, or I feel for you, or reach across the table and shake their hand kind of thing in a verbal sort of way. Or is this a situation where it's correction and they're upset, but they don't really have a legitimate reason to be upset, and so you're not going to meet them halfway because they're wrong and they're trying to push something on you. And I think, although that's very, very rare, I think it's interesting. And I think this may be a stretch. Maybe it is a stretch. And maybe this is just an interesting theory that can be extended to maybe non-gaming people, or maybe just those of us who deal a lot with teenagers or children in general. But I just thought about it, and I watched my local gaming group, and luckily at this point there's really not a lot of nutty kind of guys that might flip out. In fact, I can't think of a single one currently, but it's just something to think about, and it's been in my head, and I didn't want to complain about eBay, so I did that instead. Now, before I go, please think about pledging for Extra Life, whether it's to Russ or Nicole or to me or someone who's local who can help your local children's hospital. But of course, if you pledge for me, I might actually get up there into the top 10. Right now, I'm not even close. It's actually sad and pathetic, and I'm nowhere near it. I'm like in this top 64-ish. So help a brother out, man, or help the kids out anywhere around the world. Extra Life is awesome for that. And we got to kind of like make a statement. Let's make a statement that those video gamers, they're not the only ones who can do this. Okay? So that's about all I've got for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
All attempts to contact the invaders thus far have failed. Their only purpose seems to be destruction and chaos. One fact is quite clear. The militaries of the world are severely outgunned. In the absence of a miracle, this could very well mean the end of civilization as we know it.
Hello, Commander. In response to the alien threat, this Council of Nations has chosen to activate the XCOM project. You have full command of XCOM headquarters. You must learn more about the enemy to expand our capabilities, as well as the abilities of our operatives.
Reports that come in from around the world of alien ships being blown out of the sky. A military aircraft bearing the markings of no country. Special forces soldiers with weapons and body armor unlike anything we've ever seen.